What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto marries Femme Gaara? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. The third Hokage had just entered the hospital and had looked distraught because he heard the news from his personal Anbu that the son he was supposed to protect was in the hospital for the umpteenth time and he was just 8. He instantly arrived at the reception office and the nurse at the desk was surprised. Hokage-sama. The old Hokage asked the nurse, "Where is he?" The head nurse knew what he was talking about. He just got out of the operating room and he needs his rest. The Hokage then suddenly shouted, "Just tell me where he is." He instantly coughed and said, "I apologize for my rude behavior. But please, I want to see him." The nurse gave out and said, "He's in room 233 inches." He then said, "Thank you." The Hokage then shined out to the room in where his surrogate but not really surrogate grandson was. When he arrived inside Naruto's room, the doctor and the nurse that was in the room were surprised and then bowed to him by together saying, "Hokage-sama." The old Hokage was sad to see Naruto like this. The poor blonde was still asleep but was really malnourished, pale, weak and really sleepy. The Hokage asked the doctor what had happened because all that his personal Anbu were that Naruto was really hurt and that he was already in the hospital. The doctor then responded, "When he came here with the dog-masked Anbu. He was in grave condition, almost to the point of dying. His injuries were just too much for an 8-year-old child to have and not die from. Some of our nurses and doctors did not want to treat the boy and they were the best we had, so we had to make do. If you're asking about his injuries, he had several broken ribs, 2 severe concussions, internal bleeding, malnutrition, his right femur was cracked and his hips were broken. All I have to say is, Hokage, we were giving up because there were too many injuries." But the Hokage then snapped up to his attention as when he was hearing the doctor's words all he thought was that, "I'm sorry Minato and Kushina. I've made your boys suffer through all this." His thought process was stopped when he heard the doctor say "but." The doctor then continued, "There was this red chakra that coiled around the boy and healed most of his injuries, which made our healing of the boy faster, and that's all what happened." Sarutobi sighed as he thought suddenly, "Wait. Red chakra. The Kyuubi must have saved him, and that means that Minato's seal is still working and that means we are still safe." He then asked, "May I be alone with the boy?" The doctor nodded as he exited slowly and quietly out the room, leaving Naruto and him alone. He then saw the blonde, who was still asleep, and smiled a bit as he thought, "I'm so sorry, Naruto. I just wanted you to have a normal life like your parents wanted." Sometimes he regretted making the decision that announced Naruto as the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, as he was just trying to have the boy be a hero instead of an object of the village's hatred. God knows how long he has executed the ones who have tried to squeal about Naruto to the younger generation. He didn't know what to do anymore. He then thought, maybe I should have told to everyone that he was Minato's son. But it would probably lead more villagers to say that they would finish the job and avenge the Yondaime. Humans are so foolish. He didn't notice as a voice called to him, "Hey Gigi." The old Hokage fell out of his seat and looked at the origin on where he heard the voice. He then saw the blonde, who was at a moment asleep, smiling at him, and the old Hokage almost said, "Min?" He then thought, "By Kami. Take away the whiskers and he really looks like his father." Naruto looked confused as he tilted his head sidewards and asked, "Gigi, are you okay? You look out of it." This snapped the old Hokage back as he said, "I'm okay, Naruto." He then stood up as he brushed the dirt from his robes. "How are you, Naruto?" Naruto then stood on the top of his bed as he placed on his trademark grin and said loudly, "I'm fine. I'm feeling better now." The Hokage then frowned as he knew the boy's mask that hid his real feelings. So he said, "Naruto, can you do me a favor?" Naruto then answered, "What is it?" Sarutobi then smiled and asked, "Could you please remove the mask that you are wearing and just answer me truthfully, please?" Naruto was shocked as Gigi found out his secret, that he hid his emotions. Naruto stuttered, how did why you know?" Sarutobi then answered, "Oh, please Naruto. I am called the professor. Now would you please answer the question to how are you really?" Naruto then dropped his head down, which signaled his defeat. Hi. He then said, after dropping his mask and talking in a sad tone, "Fine, you win Gigi. If you want to know, I'm not okay. I remember being attacked and a lot of people calling me a monster and then nothing Gigi. The old Hokage sighed again as he heard what Naruto had said and then Naruto continued, Gigi, can I ask you this? Sarutobi then responded to saying, yes, what is it Naruto? Naruto then said, why am I a monster? Sarutobi then quickly responded, no, you are not. Don't ever say that you are a monster, Naruto. His voice then began to get more depressed, it's just the villagers can't see you for who you are and what you are holding. Naruto then said, wait, so what am I holding? Sarutobi after hearing that he face-palmed himself and thought, baka. Shit, I revealed something I shouldn't have. Had to make my escape. The old Hokage was going to escape but was stopped when Naruto unleashed his most powerful attack a child shinobi would use. He used the puppy dog eyes jutsu on the old man in the hopes to get him to answer. Sarutobi had a hard time, I must resist. He then sighed in defeat as he could not beat the infamous jutsu and said, okay, Naruto, you win. The blonde boy celebrated over his victory against the Gigi. He was then stopped by the doctor who healed him who shouted, be quiet. This made Naruto stop and go back to his hospital bed. Sarutobi coughed loudly to make his presence known to Naruto who immediately looked to where he was. He then continued, Naruto, you must promise me to keep this secret with your own life and know that I am giving you the responsibility to share this secret with someone you feel like can keep it and doesn't judge you. Do you understand? Naruto was confused on what he heard as he was trying to fit the bits and pieces he had just heard. Secret, response what? Share, judge. Sarutobi sighed again and said, just to make it short, this is a high-ranking S-class secret and whoever says it to anyone is dead, but you have the power to tell it to anyone. Just be sure that they won't call you monster. Naruto then said, okay, Gigi, now tell me, please. Please, please. Sarutobi then said, okay, Naruto, listen carefully. Sarutobi started, Naruto, 8 years ago the Kyuubi attacked this village causing destruction and death. The Yondaime Hokage faced the beast and died protecting the village and killing the beast. Naruto interrupted. I know that, but what does that? He stopped when the old Hokage released a small amount of killing aura to make Naruto quiet again. Sarutobi coughed again and continued, Naruto, that's the one that everyone in the younger generation of shinobis know. I'm going to tell you the real version. What really happened was that the Yondaime Hokage couldn't kill the Kyuubi, so he decided to seal the beast. Naruto instantly thought, no. Sarutobi said, but to seal the Biju you have to have a newborn baby to contain the chakra because the chakra coils have not been used. Naruto then cogged up the gears in his head and came up with a conclusion, no. Then that means. Sarutobi sighed and said, Naruto, the Yondaime Hokage sealed the Kyuubi in you, making you the Jinchuriki, and that is the reason why you are being hated by the village because they think that you killed the beloved Yondaime Hokage. Naruto swallowed all that in and said, so am I a monster? Like what everyone says. Naruto then heard his Gigi say, no you are not. It's just because these villagers misunderstand how important you are. And it's my fault. Naruto asked, what do you mean Gigi? Sarutobi then explained, I told the entire village about what you hold within you. Naruto then became depressed as he learned that the constant abuse and beatings were just because of this and it was one of his precious people. Sarutobi then said, I understand if you are angry at me, Naruto. But please understand that I was just trying to make the village understand that you are a hero. Instead you were cast out and abused for something that is not you. You are not the Kyuubi, you are his jailer. If you are angry at me, I don't mind. I guess this is penance for my ignorance towards you. Naruto, who was controlling his emotions as hard as he could and clenched his fist that signaled the anger that was in him right now, I am angry, Gigi. I'm angry at you, this village, even Yondaime-sama. Sarutobi's head bowed down as he was apologizing for the things he had done. Naruto continued, but what good is it? Sarutobi was now shocked at what the boy just said. Naruto then explained, being angry over things like this won't get me anywhere. It won't let them apologize. All I have to do now is get over this hatred and now focus on something else. He looked at his window as he saw the sun was going to set. I'll focus on becoming stronger for everyone and to prove that I'm not the Kyuubi. Sarutobi was happy at Naruto's conviction. Naruto then faced his Gigi and said with a true smile, how can I be angry at one of my precious people like you, Gigi? You helped me and were one of the few that actually said happy birthday to me, gave me a gift and cared for me. Why would I get angry at you? I'm grateful to what you did for me. Sarutobi was shedding tears as he then stood up and said, if you'll excuse me, Naruto. I have to go now to do my duties. Naruto then nodded and said, hi, Gigi, I'll see you again. Sarutobi exited the room quietly as he wiped the tears from his eyes as he thought, he'll make you proud, Minato-kun and Kushina-chan. Naruto heard Gigi's footsteps as he knew he felt Sarutobi leave the hallway. Naruto relaxed as he gave out a sigh as he said, at least I know now what was the problem. Now, he then began to think, how do I become stronger to protect everyone I care for? Naruto suddenly felt something grab him as he was at his hospital room, and the next moment he was in a sewer as he saw a red cage and a beast shadow that called out to him, yo kid. You're here finally. Naruto's eyes widened as he realized what he was talking to. You're the beast then answered, that is right boy. I am the Kyuubi no Yoko. I am the reason why you are hated for. I am the one who is jailed within you. Naruto stood up as he also noticed that he was on water. What do you want? Kyuubi then answered, easy, I'm just here to talk to my warden for the first time in 8 years. Naruto then looked around and asked, where am I? The Kyuubi interrupted him by saying, the answer to that puny human is that we are in your mindset, as this could be the only way for you and me to communicate unless I get to talk to you outside this mindscape. Naruto then said, okay. How? Kyuubi again interrupted him, do I know what you're going to say next? He smiled as Naruto gained an angry tick as a result and shouted, Urusei. Baka no Kitsune. Stop saying what I'm going to say next. The fox sweat dropped as he thought, is he really this much of an idiot? The fox then got closer to Naruto and he could see how big the fox really was and his aura. The fox then made a grin and said, the reason why, Baka no Ninjin, is that you and I are linked. I'm able to hear your thoughts, see your memories and control your body through your uncontrollable rage. Naruto was horrified. Then that means you, Kyuubi just smiled as he waved his tails, know everything you ever did. Due to your memories, but I can't see what you see, hear what you hear, or smell what you smell, because even if we are linked I can't really know what's going on because of this damn seal. So I just see what happened in the past. Naruto bowed his head down as he asked, so you remember? The fox just said again. As I told you Baka, I remember the time you tried to kill yourself several times because you were so boo-hoo sad and I was the reason why you were still alive. Naruto then said, sorry. As the fox kept on ranting, or how about that time when you wait did you just say sorry? Naruto then explained, I'm sorry for being like that. I didn't realize I was hurting someone else. The fox just laughed as he then said, Kit. I haven't had a good laugh like that for a while. You really are an idiot. Naruto gained several more angry ticks as the Biju just kept on laughing. Yeah, I get it. But I have to ask why you saved me. The fox stopped laughing and then placed his hand outside the cage as he said, it's because of this. The fox then hit the seal which was holding the cage in place. If it weren't for this, I would already have escaped from this prison, but there is another reason why I can't let you die. Naruto asked, why? The fox then answered, remember how I already told you that we are linked? Naruto then nodded. Now from what you heard from that old man is that I was sealed by the Yondaime Hokage. But kid, I'm too strong even for the Shikifu Jin, so he came up with a clever idea that if I was placed here and tried to escape, I would die, and I don't like that to happen. He also knew that when you got older, I would try to escape. So he linked us, meaning if you die, I die. Understand now kid? Naruto then nodded, then blatantly said, so make me stronger, fox. The fox was seething as he came closer to Naruto to the point that he was staring at Naruto. You got some guts kid to do this to me, the most powerful being in the universe. Maybe I'll just grab you from outside the cage and rip you to shreds. Naruto then said, you always call me an idiot, fox. But you're an idiot as well. Kyuubi was already mad and then proceeded to grab Naruto, and his hand was gonna get the blonde. But the blonde said something first, I die then you die. The fox stopped and chuckled, you're interesting kid, now please explain. Naruto then explained, I just realized from my goal just happens to be like yours. I want to be stronger to protect my precious people and you don't want to die. So I have to be stronger for you not to die because you're one of my precious people. Kyuubi then said, and why am I the reason why I am one of the people you care about? Naruto then said, even though you are the reason why most people hate me. What can I do? You're stuck with me until the day I die, so I decided just to suck it up and become friends with you." The Kyuubi just laughed and rolled all over. This continued for about a few minutes. "Ha. You are really interesting, Naruto. Very well, I'll make you powerful, just give me time and all I need is 2 favors." Naruto quickly responded, "Okay. Name it, Kyuubi." The Biju then said, "I want to be able to see what you see, so could you tear off a bit of the seal?" Naruto then shouted, "Wait. Wouldn't that kill me?" The Biju retorted to saying, "Urusai. God, you're louder than anything I've ever met. And yes, that would kill you by removing the entire seal, so I'm just asking you to remove a tiny bit of the seal." Naruto then said, "Okay." Naruto then proceeded to walk towards where the seal was and ripped off a little bit of the seal, and suddenly red chakra went around him as he was wondering, "What's this?" The fox then said, "Ah. That's the best. That boy is about 1/12 of my power that is around you." Naruto then said, "This is awesome." The fox then said, "Well, I am awesome, and now on to the second favor." Naruto said, "I'm listening." The fox then replied, "I want you to change the image of this mindset. I don't like this dank and dark sewer. Change it to something better like a forest or something." Naruto was going to ask something. "The reason why this image of your mind is like this is because of your suppressed depressions that have caused this to be like this." Naruto then asked, "So how am I gonna fix it?" The fox then said, "Just think of something like green or a forest. Just think good, kid, and let it become the image of this mindscape." Naruto thought hard and thought of everything nice and sweet that he's seen, and then he opened his eyes and smiled. What Naruto made was a beautiful flat land of grass next to a lake with a waterfall next to it, and there were animals. He then saw the Kyuubi, who was happy and pouncing on the small animals. "Niece, kid. You'll get my answer tomorrow. Now rest." Naruto was then in his hospital bed and he saw that it was night as he decided to sleep. "Thanks, Kyuubi." He then heard a voice call out to him before he fell asleep. "The name's Kurama, kid." Naruto just arrived at his apartment as he sighed as he was all alone now. Maybe the hospital wasn't that bad and at least they had food and warm water. He just sighed as he said, "I'm home." He had this room to himself, and not only that, this whole apartment. What would he do with this? "Kid, I need to tell you something." Naruto then asked, "What is it, Kurama? And why am I not in the mindscape?" "Baka, did you forget that we are linked? Meaning that I can still talk to you even from the real world and from the mindscape." Naruto scratched the back of his head. I forgot." "You never, kid, you have a visitor." Naruto just responded with an as he looked around for who Kurama was talking about, and he smelled his place and found 2 distinct smells. He then thought, this ability to know where people are even though they are hiding is good. Another thing, you have to be grateful for me being in you." Naruto then smiled, "Thanks, Kurama, for that." The Biju merely smiled, Yes, you can shower me with praise, but first, take care of your uninvited guests first." Naruto simply said, "You don't have to tell me that." Now back to the real world. Naruto looked at where the 2 intruders were at his bedroom. He stood up and then called out, "Oi, intruder-san. Please don't attack me now." There was no response, so Naruto did what any child would do. He ran out to the window, he then opened it and screamed, "Help! There are 2 child moles." He couldn't finish his sentence as his mouth was being covered by 4 hands as he looked up and saw the 2 intruders were Anbu with a dog mask and the other one with a cat mask. The dog-masked Anbu said, Nay, Naruto. Could you please be quiet?" The 2 Anbu released their hands on the boy's mouth as the blonde said, "No problem. I apologize for almost saying that. I just thought the people that attacked me came back." This time the cast-masked Anbu said, "That's understandable, Naruto-san. As for the reason that we are here in your apartment is that Hokage-sama has called you and we are to pick you up." Naruto then asked, "What does Gigi want with me?" Dog-masked Anbu just shrugged his shoulders, "No idea. All he told us is that he wants to speak to you privately." Naruto stood up and then said, "Okay, let's see what Gigi wants, Inu-san and Neko-san." Neko just smiled from underneath her mask as she said, "Okay, Naruto. Just follow us." The 2 Anbu then shined out of the apartment as Naruto was amazed of what they did. He then realized that they were gone and he had to run. "How do you do that?" The fox then mumbled, "Urusai." Naruto then shouted as he was still excited, "Teach me, Kurama." The fox then said, "No. Anyway, you have to catch them, right? Naruto then said, oh yeah? Gotta run. Naruto ran as fast as he could and chased Inu and Neko as they shunshined. Meanwhile, the old Hokage was trying to beat his enemy, which was the dreaded paperwork that a cage receives. Oh. How much I would just love to burn this stack of paper to the ground and just retire. He was going through the signs of a low-ranked fire jutsu but stopped himself. Calm down, Sarutobi. Just think, after all of this I can finally read Icha Icha. He was then snapped from his thoughts as the two Anbu that he told to pick up Naruto came back with a shunshin. He then asked, I can expect that he is going to arrive at any time. The two Anbu simultaneously nodded as they heard screams echo through the Hokage building. The screaming became louder as the footsteps became louder as the person making it was close to the door. Suddenly a blonde opened the door and shouted, I'm here, Gigi. The three people in the room were fixing their ears because of the intense sound that our favorite blonde made. Sarutobi, who was the first to recover, Naruto-kun, would you please lower your voice? People will probably get hurt if they did. Naruto said, sorry, Gigi. It's just I got excited when I saw these two guys go to different places without running and I want to learn it. His eyes were gleaming with excitement, which caused the two Anbu to sweat nervously as they thought that teaching this boy would be a major pain in the ass. However, Sarutobi was different because he thought he just saw two people in Naruto. Kami. I just realized that without the whiskers he would look exactly like Minato when he was young. And that personality, he is just like his father in wanting to learn everything with his mother's enthusiasm. Naruto then was waving his hand in front of Sarutobi as he was seeing if the old man goes senile right in front of him. Yuhu. Oi, Gigi. You awake? Sarutobi snapped himself from his own thoughts and gave Naruto a look that almost made Naruto piss his pants. Naruto, do you want to fight? I was the most vicious shinobi in the first and second shinobi war. Naruto immediately shook his head and got off the desk as he went back to where he was. Sorry, Gigi. I just thought you were out of it. Sarutobi coughed to gain his composure back and ordered, Anbu, could you kindly leave so that me and Naruto may have a private talk? The two Anbu in the room simultaneously said, Hi. Hokage-sama, as they both bowed and shunshined along with two other Anbu, which meant that they left. Naruto then said as he found something, so that's where the other two were. I knew I smelled two other people in this room. Sarutobi was shocked as Naruto's smell was better than Inuzuka's, as the two other Anbu were special ops, which meant they knew how to conceal themselves and have the best trackers clueless to where they are. Sarutobi wanted to know how an 8-year-old was able to sniff out special Anbu like that. Naruto, may I ask how you were able to find that there were two other people in this room? Naruto simply stated, Gigi, the fox gave me heightened senses. Sarutobi instantly was on high alert. He was going to say something but Naruto got to him first. Gigi, I know that you are worried about this. But don't worry, he's not out of the cage. Sarutobi calmed down a bit and asked, so how is he able to give you this? Naruto truthfully said, I tore a little piece of the seal and he said that I received 1/12 of his power. So the heightened senses come with a bonus. Sarutobi finally calmed himself down upon seeing this. Naruto said, Gigi, the fox wanted to tell you something. Sarutobi then asked, what is it, Naruto? Naruto explained, he said that he didn't attack Konoha on his own will and that a guy with red eyes and a Sharingan thing controlled him and that it was a guy named Madara Uchiha. Sarutobi was shocked that the man who was supposed to have died during the fight with the first Hokage at the Valley of the End was alive and unleashed the Kyuubi. I have to think of plans to counteract this problem, if Madara suddenly decides to attack us. Sarutobi shook his head and gained his composure again by silently coughing. He then asked Naruto, Naruto, would you care to go on a trip with me? Naruto interrupted him by celebrating, yay. Yay, I'm going on a trip. I'm going on a trip. His celebrating was cut short when the Hokage once again placed the entire room with enough killing intent to stop the boy. Sarutobi continued, anyways, we are going to Suna. I am going there to have a diplomatic meeting with the Cage there to talk about the new peace treaty, and I want you to come along with me because I have assumed that you want to visit what's outside Konoha. Naruto's eyes were filled with happiness as he kept on saying to the old Hokage, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sarutobi replied with a warm smile, no need to thank me, Naruto. Now go pack your things, we are leaving in the afternoon at about 3. He stopped when he saw the blonde disappear from his sights. He then smiled as he thought, he looks so happy about this, and I think he needed at least a day where he does not get attacked or harmed in any way by the villagers. He then grabbed his pipe as he smoked. I hope that this goes well. It was already 3 and the ones that were at the gate were 4 Anbu like Neko, Inu, Hawk and Lion. There was also the 3rd Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was waiting for the last member of their party before they go. Sarutobi wondered, where on earth could he be? Wait, what's that? The party didn't know what they saw as a very fast traveling dust cloud going towards them and then stopping next to them and creating a large dust cloud. It took a while for the dust cloud to dissipate, and what they saw was a blonde boy carrying on his back 2 large scrolls. Naruto, if I may ask, on what kept you so long, my dear boy? Naruto, who was tired and sweating, replied, I was sealing the stuff I needed for this trip. He then dusted himself up and took a deep breath and continued, sealing can be hard, so I was able to store this much in 2 storage scrolls in about an hour. The team's jaws dropped as they couldn't believe Naruto could learn sealing that fast. Inu then spoke first, nay, Naruto, did you have any help in your sealing? Naruto then replied, nope, all I was told was to place my stuff in a scroll and the rest was trial and error. Hawk asked, who is the one who asked you this? Naruto answered, just some random guy who just told me. Their jaws dropped even lower as a voice in Naruto's head was just plain laughing, ha. Ha, ha. Did you see the looks on their faces? That was priceless on what they saw an 8-year-old boy progress more than them ever did in their entire shinobi career. Naruto said to his Biju, yeah, I know, right? Thanks Kurama for the advice. Kurama just smiled and said, don't mind kid. The surprises will keep on coming. Later ask him of what jutsu is and ask for chakra paper. You will see the most beautiful expression that humans can make. Naruto just said, okay, I'll take your word for it. Naruto then said to the party, so let's go. As he ran in front of the group, leading the entire group to sweat drop and regret bringing the blonde, as they all thought, Mendoku's. The whole Nara clan men then sneezed at the same time. The whole group was walking and the blonde was being quiet until he kept on saying, are we there yet? They were reaching the border, and that was when the 4 Anbu simultaneously said, Urasai. We are not in Suna yet, it will take another day. Now shut up. Naruto became quiet and Sarutobi said, since we are at the border, let's camp out here for the meantime and we will leave first thing in the morning. The 4 Anbu said, hi. As they proceeded to set up camp and Sarutobi just sat in the grass. Meanwhile, Naruto was just admiring everything outside of Konoha and that everything was so green and filled with forests. Suddenly Naruto was placed in his mindscape and said, what the Kurama just said as he was wagging his tails, as it would seem that he was happy about his new mindscape. I would like to thank you, kid, for what you've done for me, even though I have caused you pain and misery. I would like to explain your gifts. So sit down on the grass. Naruto followed and he sat on the grass as Kurama explained. Okay, your gifts, as we know, is the heightened senses which will grow more when you get older, so I think when you reach 18 you can reach your full potential. Naruto then said, sweet. Thanks Kurama. Kurama just said, keep up with the compliments, kid. The other one is of course your shinobi abilities. Now first I need you to test if it worked. That is why I needed that chakra paper, to see if you have about 5 elements. Quote. Naruto then asked, what's an element? Kurama replied, let your old man explain it for you, I'm tired. Go out. As Naruto was going to get out of his mindscape, Kurama said, oi, kid. When you're done with the whole chakra paper thing, just call my name and I will tell you what to do. Naruto nodded as he then was in the real world and saw Gigi next to him. Naruto asked, is there anything you want, Gigi? Sarutobi smiled, I was just wondering why you were spaced out for a minute and making weird faces. Naruto was confused, so that's what I look like when I'm in the mindscape talking to Kurama. Naruto then answered, oh, I was just thinking about something. Anyway, Gigi, can you tell me what is chakra? Sarutobi then asked, what is the sudden interest? Naruto just shrugged his shoulders and simply said, I don't know, I was curious. Sarutobi just said, okay, and Naruto listened carefully. Naruto then answered, okay. Sarutobi then said, chakra is essential to being a shinobi. The 2 components of chakra are your physical energy and your spiritual energy. Inside your body are called chakra coils that surround and connect to the chakra-producing organ, which is here. Sarutobi poked Naruto's stomach, causing him to lightly laugh, and he said, that tickles, Gigi. Sarutobi merely continued, so your stomach is where your chakra is, so can I ask Naruto, do you want to see your chakra? Naruto immediately nodded and the old Hokage said, okay, now follow me and do the ram sign that I am doing and concentrate. Naruto saw the ram sign and copied it as he closed his eyes and concentrated the best he could. Come on chakra. Work. Wait, what's that? Naruto saw a tiny blue flame with him, and from the blue flame there was a blue energy that coursed throughout his entire body as he felt energized. Sarutobi looked at this and thought, he already can use chakra. Minato, you would be impressed at your son. I think he beats you here. Naruto then got out of his concentration and celebrated as he shouted, I got chakra. I can feel it. I know what it looks like. Sarutobi again thought, I wonder why no one can see the resemblances with Minato and Kushina. Are people this stupid? Naruto then said, nay, Gigi, what's next? Sarutobi sighed a little and continued, the next thing you need to learn about chakra is that it takes time to regain it, so don't spend it all. Because if you do spend it all, you might develop chakra exhaustion and that could lead to death if not treated early. So be careful, okay? Naruto then said, okay. Sarutobi continued, lastly, therein what I said not to develop chakra exhaustion, you have to have large levels of chakra level or have good chakra control. Naruto asked, what is chakra control? Sarutobi explained, chakra control is the ability that only skilled ninja or through training and hard work is to correctly mold chakra and be able to manipulate it to its fullest extent. To improve one's molding and manipulation of chakra are through the leaf concentration, tree walking and the water walking exercises. Naruto then said, so can I do these techniques, Gigi? Sarutobi smiled, of course, Naruto. After this trip I will give you a book on chakra and chakra control for you to use. Naruto then said, yada. Thank you, Gigi. Sarutobi merely said, you're welcome Naruto. Naruto then remembered about the test that Kurama wanted him to do about his elements thing. Gigi, can I have chakra paper? Sarutobi then asked, why do you need chakra paper, Naruto? Naruto answered, I just want to learn more about chakra and I heard the fox mumbling about chakra paper, so I wanted to figure out what was it. Sarutobi then said, chakra paper is used to find your elemental chakra. Elemental chakra is based on what the ninja uses. There are 5 main elemental chakra. They are fire, earth, water, lightning and wind. Naruto said, okay, so can I use it? Sarutobi then said, I'm sorry, Naruto, but I don't have any chakra paper on me at the moment. Maybe after we get back. Naruto frowned at that moment because he really wanted to try what Kurama asked him to do. Upon seeing this, Sarutobi's grandfather instincts kicked in and called out his Anbu that were finished setting up camp, Anbu. The 4 Anbu suddenly appeared in front of their Hokage, which snapped Naruto from his sadness as he was shocked on where did they come from. Do any of you have chakra paper that I can use? Lion came forward and said, I have one. Sarutobi then asked, can I have it? Lion replied, hi, Hokage-sama. Lion gave Sarutobi the chakra paper and he gave it to Naruto, who was happy. Sarutobi then said, okay Naruto, now I would want you to hold the paper with both hands and place your chakra on the paper and it will react and we will find out what your chakra nature is. And, don't know how they do it. Hope I did it right. Naruto immediately nodded and did what Sarutobi said as he closed his eyes and focused again. Come on chakra. Work again please. Naruto saw again the blue flame as the energy coursed through his body into the paper and the paper reacted. The paper was cut into 4 pieces, one of the 4 became soggy, another eroded into the dirt, another burnt up and the last became a black material. Sarutobi and the Anbu were shocked on what happened and thought, holy shit. What is this? Naruto has 5 elements and the last one. I don't think I have seen that. Naruto opened his eyes and he was unaware on what happened, so he asked, so what happened? The 5 adults coughed simultaneously to gain their composures and Sarutobi spoke up, well, Naruto. You have made an interesting development. First the paper cut up to 4 pieces and this means you have wind as one of your main elements. Naruto shouted, yada, I'm so awesome. Sarutobi continued, then one of the 4 pieces became soggy, which means that you have water. Another became dirt, which means you have earth. The third burned up, which symbolizes that you have fire. And the last, Sarutobi gave to Naruto the last piece as Naruto was as well perplexed as Sarutobi continued. Well, that is the last piece. I have never seen anything like it, so I am sure you have found a new element. You have earned the name the most surprising ninja. Naruto scratched the back of his head and was blushing in embarrassment over the praise he got from Gigi. He then remembered what he had to do. He said, "Kurama, are you there?" He then heard the Biju go up and say, "Oh, you're done. Okay, time for the first surprise. I want you to follow me what I do." The Biju then performed the snake hand sign and Naruto followed suit. Kurama then said, "Okay, now you have to say, Mokuton Hijitsu, Jukai Koden, and revel in the effects of what it will do." Naruto then got back to the real world. "Hey Gigi, can I do something? I'm going to show you something that I just thought of." Sarutobi then said, "Okay, Naruto. You can show me. There is nothing can surprise me anymore. He already has more progress than his prodigy of a dad." Naruto stood up and said to the Anbu, "Anyo, can you give me room?" The four Anbu complied and left Naruto with enough space to showcase what he had just learned from Kurama. He then did the snake hand sign as he shouted, "Mokuton Hijitsu, Jukai Koden." The adults were again shocked as an 8-year-old was already doing a jutsu and an impossible one because the only one who could use the famous Mokuton was the first Hokage and he was dead. Surely an 8-year-old boy can't do a jutsu that was impossible. That all changed when the ground started to shake and about 8 trees sprung out from the ground and created a mini forest as Naruto looked at his handiwork. "Nay, Kyuubi, did I do good?" Kurama responded, "You did great, kid. Look at their faces." Naruto snapped himself up and looked at the adults and saw that their jaws were on the floor and that they hadn't moved for minutes as they were out of it. So he just waited for them to move and comprehend what had just happened. After a few minutes the adults shaked their heads and the first one to speak was Hawk. "Did you see what I saw?" Lion replied, "Yeah, but I think it was my imagination." Neko then said, "Of course, there is no way an 8-year-old boy can do a jutsu that the first Hokage did." Inu looked up and his jaw once more dropped as the 3 Anbu wanted to know why he was like that, and they also looked up at their Hokage who was in the same state like Inu. They decided to look up and their jaws once dropped again. All the adults saw Naruto near his mini forest as he said, "Hey guys. How do you like my forest?" The adults were about to speak but Naruto spoke first. "If you're wondering how I did this, I don't know. I just did what my gut told me and I did it, so how is it?" The adults put back their jaws as the Biju inside Naruto just kept laughing, "Ha ha ha." Their faces when they saw your jutsu were priceless. Naruto smirked as he said, "Thank you, Kurama." Naruto saw the 4 Anbu talk to their Hokage and he picked up their conversation using his enhanced hearing. "What the hell, a boy can't do that." That must be Neko. Yeah, and he beats Itachi and Kakashi in terms of being a child prodigy or a genius. That must be Lion. Hokage-sama, I quit being a shinobi. I'm retiring. And that must be Inu. So Inu is Kakashi. Very interesting. Naruto shouted at the adults to get their attention. "Hey guys, I have another thing to show you, but I need something from you, Inu-san." The adults went to Naruto inside. Inu spoke first. "What do you need, Naruto?" Naruto told them his plans for the next surprise and the adults were surprised. Sarutobi exclaimed first, "Are you crazy? Naruto, you might get really hurt because of this." Naruto just smeed and said, "Don't worry, Gigi, I know what I'm doing." The 4 adults looked at Inu and he just sighed, "Let's get this over with." They then went to a spot where Kakashi would throw a kunai at Naruto and he wouldn't do anything to dodge or catch it. Inu then said, "Okay, Naruto, where do you want me to throw this?" Naruto pointed to where his heart is and he said, "Here." Inu then said, "Just know that I'm not guilty for this." Naruto hoped this would work. Of course this would work. Get ready for the second surprise. Flashback. Kurama told him of what the unknown piece of the chakra paper was. "That, my dear kid, is a new element that I made. It's called the steel element. Meaning anything you use with that is stronger than any kunai or sword, thus making it hard to kill you or break the weapon." Naruto said, "That's cool." Kurama continued, "Another thing, since I said that it will be really hard to kill you, I constructed your body to make a shield out of the carbon in your body, so plus that with the steel will make your body the ultimate shield." Naruto said, "Thanks Kurama, you're the best." Kurama then replied, "Thanks, now I have to tell you another test to see if it works." Naruto then responded, "Okay. I'm listening." Kurama then said, "Okay, here's the plan. Kurama was explaining to Naruto how to do the test. He had to have one of the Anbu throw a kunai to his heart and see if it works. Naruto then said, I'll try it. He then escaped his mindscape and looked at the 5 adults that were still out of it. Naruto then said, time to wait for them. Flashback end. Inu then said, here I go. He then the kunai at Naruto and it was traveling and it was going to hit Naruto. Sarutobi closed his eyes because he couldn't bear to see what would happen next. He then heard a clank sound and opened his eyes and saw the kunai on the ground and Naruto unharmed and smiling. He then looked at the 3 Anbu with him and Inu who threw the kunai and they had the same face. They were out of it again and were white all over. Sarutobi approached the boy and asked, what happened, Naruto? Naruto went over to where the kunai was, picked it up and aimed it straight for his heart and also removed his shirt. This happened. He then attempted to stab himself but then there was a black substance on his skin as the kunai couldn't continue anymore. It stopped and broke into pieces. Sarutobi was surprised and wanted to know what he saw on Naruto's skin. Sarutobi asked, what was that on you, Naruto? Naruto answered, it's my ultimate shield. Sarutobi was confused by this as there couldn't possibly be an ultimate shield. Naruto explained, Gigi, do you remember the last piece of the chakra paper that you said was a new element? The old Hokage nodded, well Gigi, I'll tell you a secret, it wasn't really me that did all of this. Sarutobi asked, then who? Naruto said, it was the Kyuubi who helped me. Sarutobi was shocked, so Naruto you mean all this time? Naruto interrupted him, I was just following what he said and it worked. Naruto coughed a bit, anyways onto the main thing. My ultimate shield is a combination of the new element in my body. Sarutobi was going to ask but Naruto got there first. My new element which was created by Kurama is called the Steel Release or Koton. Sarutobi said, I can get this Naruto but what about your body? Naruto said, well the Kyuubi made a few modifications to me and besides heightened senses. He said I have the ability to adjust the carbon in my body to make it harder to the point where no weapon can harm me. Sarutobi said, so that means you really have the ultimate shield. Naruto then said, I'm awesome aren't I? Sarutobi then said, yes you are and let's get ready for the night. Naruto just nodded and the night was filled with joy and 4 Anbus that didn't remember anything and thought that it was still a dream. The desert sure was hot. Naruto had to learn that the hard way as they were still walking in the desert. They had left first thing in the morning so it must have been noon already. Naruto asked, are we there yet? Neko said, we don't know yet Naruto-san. Suna is a hidden village because of this desert. Naruto then spoke to Kurama, nay, Kurama, you think I could do something so that we could get to Suna? Kurama then responded, just suck it up kid and keep on walking. This is a good exercise to test your physical ability. Naruto then said, please Kurama, I beg of you. Naruto used his puppy dog eyes jutsu on the biju. Kurama just laughed, that jutsu doesn't work on me. Although I find it really annoying. Naruto smirked and continued to use the jutsu on the biju. Kurama then said, okay, stop the jutsu. It annoys me so much that you have no idea. Naruto then cleared his throat and said, so what do I do? Kurama then said, I want you to do the jutsu that I taught you yesterday. Naruto then said, this'll be fun. Naruto stopped walking and the adults stopped walking and Hawk said, Naruto, what are you doing? They all saw Naruto smirk and did one hand sign as he said, Mokuton Hijitsu, Jutai Koden. Massive trees came from the ground and Naruto said, yes. I've been dying for some shade. Sarutobi just sighed as the Anbu said, okay I quit being a shinobi. Suddenly 6 figures appeared around the Konoha group. One of the men said, who did this? Naruto raised his hand and the 6 figures did not believe. Naruto sighed, nobody believes me. Have to another jutsu I learned. Naruto then concentrated in the water in the air, the ground and all around the area even from the trees. Once all of the water was collected Naruto said, Sweden, Suiryuden no jutsu. The water then became a dragon and slammed into Naruto causing all of the people around to be shocked except Sarutobi. Naruto then said, that water was so good. I needed that to cool off. The 6 figures that were there had the leader say, okay. Now state your business before we act. Sarutobi then spoke up, we are here to talk to the case cage about the peace treaty. The leader then said, confirmed, you will all follow us to Suna. Naruto celebrated, yay, it's going to be over. We're getting out of the desert. The Suna shinobi all thought, that kid did a really great genjutsu on us. He'll have a great shinobi career. The Konoha group then followed the Suna group and then they finally arrived at the gates of Suna. Naruto was amazed when he saw Suna and the hidden village just made him filled with excitement. He was just looking around Suna and Sarutobi was smiling, at least he shed his mask here and he looks like he is enjoying this trip so far. Naruto said as he got back to where Sarutobi was, "Nay, Gigi, can I go around?" Sarutobi then said, "Just wait a minute, Naruto." Naruto nodded as they went inside the cage building of the case cage and the rest of the Anbu left Naruto and Sarutobi alone as they walked past the secretary and went inside. Inside the office was the fourth case cage who was sitting as he stood up to greet his guests. "It is an honor to speak with you, Sandame Hokage." Sarutobi replied, "It is as well, Yondaime case cage." The Yondaime case cage then looked at who was with Sarutobi and asked, "Who is this boy that is with you?" Naruto was going to speak but Sarutobi got there first. "His name is Naruto Uzumaki and he is just with me." The case cage just looked at Naruto and just went back to where he was seated and motioned his two guests to sit as well and Naruto and Sarutobi complied. Naruto then gave a look at Sarutobi and he said, "Okay, Naruto, you may go now." Naruto then said, "Yay." As he ran out the room and the Hokage's sweat dropped as the peace talks began. Naruto was still walking around the village and he found it unique on how people can live in this heat and still be happy. Another thing was that Konoha was green and this place was just brown with sand. He then wanted to know something that would bring life or death. He asked a random person, "Is there a ramen shop here in Suna?" The random person just shook his head, "I'm sorry but there is no ramen in Suna." Naruto turned to brain dead when he learned that there was a place that did not have the food of the gods. Kurama suddenly said, "It's a good thing that wretched food is not here." Naruto gained an angry tick and shouted, "Oi fox! How dare you disrespect ramen? Ramen should be respected." Kurama then said, "Yeah, it should be respected. It should be respected for the reason why you're still short and why you have malnutrition. If you kept on eating ramen you could become a midget when you reach the age of 12 or 13. Naruto couldn't say anything, he is right. I don't want to become a midget and maybe I should eat right. Kurama then said, "You're damn right. Now I want you to follow everything I say from now on about your diet." Naruto sighed as he knew he was going to be in a lot of pain. He then said, "Okay Kurama." Naruto then fell down and his head kind of hurt. "Wait. Why am I down? Is that a ball?" A group of kids were suddenly around Naruto and one of the kids reached out to Naruto and Naruto grabbed his hand and got up. The boy then said, "We're so sorry. We didn't see you when we were playing." Naruto said, "It's okay. Hey, can I play?" The group of kids whispered to each other and the boy who was Naruto talked to, "We all talked and it's okay. You can play with us." Naruto again celebrated and he discovered that he was near the playground. He thought that he never got this when he was back in Konoha. Naruto with the children just kept on playing until the children left and it was about 5 because the sun was almost gone and night was going to fall. So Naruto decided to go back to where was Gigi and stopped near a dark alley when he found red and very beautiful hair on the ground. He decided to follow where the red hair left and it stopped at the end of the alley and he saw a kid around his age crying. He then went near the kid and asked, "Are you okay?" The kid then lifted her head, revealing her pale skin and green eyes with tears in her eyes and her bra strap that was seen on her shoulder. Naruto blushed when he saw her and wondered, "Why does she have the same eyes like me?" The kid then said, "Go away please. I don't want to hurt anyone." Naruto was confused at this and said, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just worried about a girl who's out here by herself and crying when it's almost night." The girl then said, "I don't believe you. You're just here to hurt me or tell the other people to hurt me." Naruto then said, "I would rather die than do that," and he reached his hand out to the girl and said, "My name's Naruto. What's yours?" The girl then grabbed his hand and stood up and Naruto wiped the tears that were still dripping from her eyes. The girl then said, "Thank you, Naruto. My name's Gaara." Thus the red string of fate was tied to these two. Naruto then had his signature smile as he walked throughout Suna at night with his new friend, Gaara, as they were just simply talking. They then decided to just sit down at a park near the playground and sat at a bench together. Naruto then said, "So what happened and why were you there at that alley?" Gaara seemed tense as she didn't want to talk about it as her fists tightened. Naruto, seeing this, was going to say something different. "Well, Suna is great and—" Gaara then suddenly spoke. "The sand," Naruto said. "What?" She then continued, "The sand scared everyone." She was starting to cry again and Naruto said, "It's alright. I'm here to help you. If you don't want to continue, then stop and just look at the stars." He then pointed to Suna's night sky as there were many stars in the sky. She also looked at it and was amazed. He then saw her look as she looked like a kid in a candy store, first time seeing the stars. She then looked back at him as she nodded and then looked at the stars again. He then said, "They're pretty, aren't they?" She nodded again as her attention was to looking at the stars. Naruto then said, "I always look at them every night." Gaara then looked at him as Naruto continued, "Back in Konoha where I'm from. Every night when I have a bad day, when the villagers chase me, I always go back to where my apartment is and spend my night watching the stars from my roof." Gaara was shocked at what she had just heard. He also is the same like me. But he looks so nice, maybe he did something bad there. Gaara then said, "When I was at the playground and I found some kids playing. I said I wanted to play with them and they said yes. I was so happy to play with them, and then," she was going to cry again but Naruto touched her hand and gave a smile. Gaara then continued, "I missed the ball so I tried to catch it and then the sand just followed where I touched and I got the ball. When I looked back I saw everyone afraid and then they started calling me monster and I hid in the alley so I wouldn't disturb anyone." Naruto then thought, "No wonder she has the same eyes like me. Kurama, can I ask you something?" Kurama then answered, "What is it, Kit?" Naruto asked, "Is Gaara the same like me? You know a Jinchu Wada?" Kurama then said, "Of course she is, brat. I can practically smell Shukaku in her." Naruto then said, "Shukaku, who's that?" Kurama then said, "He's the youngest out of the Bijus. He is also the one tail and the craziest out of all of us. That girl has it rough." Naruto then got out of his thoughts and spoke to Gaara, "So where do you live?" Gaara then said, "Huh?" Naruto explained, "I mean where do you live so that I can walk you there?" Gaara said as she pointed at the large mansion, "That's where I live." Naruto's jaw was open in disbelief. This mansion was the same size as the Hokage mansion and Naruto stuttered, Gaara, is that your house?" Gaara nodded and then left the bench and told Naruto, "Come on, aren't you supposed to walk with me to my house?" Naruto then snapped out of his nervousness and immediately went to Gaara's side and started walking to Gaara's house. They soon arrived and Naruto said, Since I guess that we're here. Bye-bye." Naruto started to run but suddenly sand got his ankles and pulled him to where Gaara was and then he was upside down facing Gaara as she said, "No, you're staying." Naruto was thinking of a good excuse so that he could go back to Gigi and this was probably not a good spot for him. So he said, "Well, I better get going." Gaara just said, "Why?" He then said, "Because Gigi is probably looking for me." Gaara then said, "Who's that?" Naruto said, "He's Gigi and he's probably sick and—" "Naruto-kun, is that you?" Naruto looked to where the voice came from and he saw Gigi with the guy Naruto met earlier in the office. Naruto's sweat dropped and almost cried as his only escape was now gone. Kurama just laughed, "Ha. The kid is going to be a good whip mate." Naruto then said, "What do you mean by whip mate, Fox?" Gaara then said, "What are you doing, Naruto?" Naruto got snapped from his talk with Kurama. I was just thinking of something." The man who Naruto remembered said, "Gaara, if you may, can you drop Uzumaki?" Gaara then released Naruto from her sand grip and Naruto fell on his head. "Hi, Case-Cage-sama." Gaara then proceeded to enter the house and the Case-Cage just frowned as he thought, "I'm sorry Gaara for what I have done to you. I hope that I can do the best to make you better." The Case-Cage then saw Naruto get up and said, "Okay, Naruto, you may get inside." The Case-Cage then went inside the mansion and leaving Naruto and Sarutobi. Naruto then asked, "Nay Gigi, why are we here?" Sarutobi then answered, "Well, Naruto-kun, when I was talking to the Case-Cage about stuff. He decided that I would stay the night at his house and that he called a few shinobi to look for you. I then followed him to his house and I saw you being hung upside down with his daughter." Naruto was slack-jawed again as he shouted, "Gaara is the dude's daughter." Sarutobi, who was nursing his ears, said, "Yes, Naruto-kun. Gaara is the Casecage's daughter." Naruto instantly thought, the Casecage looks like a nice guy. Then why did Gaara feel angry when she saw him? Sarutobi then asked, "So how did you meet Gaara, Naruto-kun?" Naruto answered, "I found her all alone and crying, Gigi." Naruto then continued after taking a breath, "When I left you at that office, I decided to look around this place. I was looking for ramen here." Sarutobi sighed as he thought, "I have to get Naruto off of that ramen and get him to eat something more nutritious. If he keeps this up, he'll be like a midget by the time he hits puberty." Naruto continued, "After finding out that there was no ramen, Naruto stopped as he wiped a tear of his eye due to his food of the gods not being here." Meanwhile, Sarutobi celebrated, "Yes. Thank Kami for that. Maybe I should have Naruto come here more often." Naruto said, "I found some other kids to play with at the playground here." Sarutobi smiled, "At least Naruto can have a normal childhood here and play with other kids." Naruto then said, "Anyway, after the kids left, I decided to go back, but then I saw Gaara crying and I decided to go near her, and after that we talked and we became friends. I then said that I would walk her home, so I followed her here. And can I ask you something, Gigi?" Sarutobi then said, "What is it?" Naruto explained, "When I saw Gaara look at her father, she just looked exactly like me when I'm with the bullies back home." Sarutobi then said, "I don't know, Naruto-kun. But let's go inside now, it's pretty dark." Naruto nodded as he followed Gigi inside the house. The house looked normal, and then he saw the Casecage at the living room and two more kids come out and be where he was. One was a girl with 4 ponytails and the other one was a boy with makeup. Naruto then approached the two and asked, "What are your names, Ponytails and Makeup Guy?" There was silence as the boy wearing makeup was seething, and the first one to break the silence was the girl as she started laughing, followed by the two cages. The boy then said, "Who are you calling makeup boy, midget? And this isn't makeup, this is face paint." Naruto then said, "Oh yeah? Then what is your face paint for?" The boy then said, "It's for intimidating people when in battle." Naruto said, "More like make them laugh to death." As Naruto kept on laughing and Makeup Boy was still angry. It then changed when the Casecage suddenly said, "Kankuro, Tamari, be quiet." This stopped Naruto from laughing as he saw the two kids say, "Yes, Otou-san." Naruto then thought, so these are Gaara's siblings. Interesting, so this is Gaara's family. Suddenly Gaara came out and Naruto saw in her siblings' eyes, fear. The girl known as Tamari then said, "How are you, Gaara?" Gaara just said, "I'm fine, sister. I just came here to ask something to the Casecage." The Casecage then said, "What is it that you want, Gaara?" Gaara replied, "I want someone to be with me in my room." The Casecage then said, "Sure, as long as you don't make too much noise." Gaara then said in a monotone voice, "Understood." Naruto in the meantime was in deep thought. I don't get this family at all. Gaara is angry and wants to be away from her family. Her siblings are scared of her and her father doesn't even look like he cares for Gaara. Is that why she is like me? Naruto's thoughts vanished when he felt someone pull him. He then saw Gaara, who said, "You are going to sleep with me tonight in my room." This caused the poor blonde to be brain dead as Tamari and Kankuro were read over what Gaara had just said. Naruto then snapped back to reality as he stuttered over the fact that this was his first time being in a girl's room and tried to escape. Gaara, I think I'm going to be with Gigi." Gaara then bluntly said, "No. You are staying with me, tonight." A flustered Naruto was trying his best to say something, but then his feet were pulled and he was being dragged by Gaara's sand to her room. The blonde boy was trying his hardest to escape. "Kurama, help." Kurama was just laughing at the boy's misery. "I'm sorry, Kit. But this is too priceless for me. So I'm not helping you now. You're on your own, Kit." Naruto cursed Kurama and was holding the doorframe to get out, but Gaara's sand is still pulling him towards her room. Naruto called out to Gigi, "Gigi, help me." Sarutobi was just drinking tea as he saw Naruto being pulled by the Casecage's daughter. It almost looked like to him with Minato and Kushina. The wise Hokage said, "Okay, Naruto." Naruto's eyes were filled with joy until, "You can stay with Gaara." Naruto lost his grip as he said, "Damn you, Gigi." The Casecage just simply watched everything happen as Tamari and Kankuro were shocked by Gaara's sudden change of behavior. He then shifted his eyes to Sarutobi as he was still drinking his tea. You seem rather calm about this. Sarutobi answered, they just reminded me of a couple I saw back then. In the room, Naruto was uncomfortable as he saw Gaara on her bed and staring at him. The air was filled with suspense until, are you coming here, Naruto? Naruto snapped from his thoughts and looked at Gaara, who again said, it's night and I would like for you to sleep with me. Naruto then said, Naruto was interrupted when Sand came out and grabbed Naruto and placed him near Gaara on the bed. Gaara then said, it's okay. I just want a friend to be with me, but if you don't want then, Naruto interrupted, I'll sleep with you. He then began to blush a bit. Meanwhile, Temari and Kankuro were listening at the door, and when their father saw what they were doing he asked, what are you doing, Temari, Kankuro? Kankuro then said, we're here because we want to keep Gaara safe. Temari then said, also that blonde guy might take advantage of Gaara. The Kazekage sweat dropped and said, Uzumaki-san looks like a good boy and he means no harm to Gaara. Temari then said, but he looks like a nice guy, but I bet you he's a bad person on the inside. Temari and Kankuro heard Gaara say, stop moving, Naruto. It hurts. They started to blush as they heard Naruto said, I'm sorry Gaara, but it's too tight. Kankuro started to nosebleed and Temari became red from both anger and from what she heard. She then punched Kankuro at the top of his head, causing a bump on his head as he angrily said, what the hell are you doing? Temari said, what are you doing? You are getting a nosebleed off of your sister. You're a pervert. Kankuro said, oh yeah. I bet the reason that you're blushing right now is because you're just imagining Naruto and Gaara having. He was interrupted when Temari pulled out her fan and blasted him to the wall, knocking him out in the process. Temari then angrily stomped her way to the bedroom as the Kazekage just sweat dropped from the performance of his children, and Sarutobi just thought, you'd be so proud, Minato and Kushina, for getting a redhead like you. The lines of your blood run deep indeed, Minato. A certain white-haired pervert sneezed as he thought, why'd I have a feeling of giving the greatest thank you present to someone? Never mind, got to focus on the women. Back to the bedroom of Gaara, there was a certain blonde who just stopped struggling and gave in. He was now face to face with Gaara in a bed. Gaara smiled and said, thank you Naruto. Naruto smiled as his blush was gone. You're welcome, Gaara, and good night. Gaara then began to fall asleep, which was a rare thing because Shukaku would make her not sleep, but for some reason the beast was quiet tonight. The next morning, Naruto woke up and discovered that Gaara was gone, and he decided to leave the bedroom of Gaara and went to the living room where he saw Temari and Kankuro. He gave a smile as the two of them suddenly became red and left the living room. The Kazekage simply sighed at this and didn't even mind talking to his two kids about what happened last night. Naruto then approached the Kazekage as he asked, where's Gaara? The Kazekage said, she's out with my ex-wife's brother, Yashimaru. Naruto smiled, thanks Kazekage-sama. I had to go. Naruto was going to run until he was stopped by the Kazekage as he said, wait, Uzumaki. I had to ask you something. Naruto then said, go for it. The Kazekage bluntly said, how was my daughter last night? Did she keep you awake? That made Sarutobi spit out his tea, and Naruto was confused why Gigi did that. He then said, Gaara was fine and she was very nice to me and she let me slept. The Kazekage nodded as he allowed Naruto to go, and the blonde boy just ran out of the door. The Kazekage just sighed as he looked at Sarutobi, who was recovering from what the innocent blonde boy had just said. Naruto was walking around Suna as he found Gaara outside the mansion on the roof and then ran back inside and was on the roof. He then found Gaara with a guy who had brown hair, and Gaara seemed happy. Naruto said, hey, Gaara. Gaara then looked to where Naruto was. Good morning, Naruto. You slept well. Gaara nodded, and then the guy who was next to him said, hi, Naruto, my name is Yashimaru. Naruto said, hello Yashimaru. May I ask why Gaara is with you? Yashimaru said, I am here to simply be with my nephew who I promised my sister to take care of. Naruto then said, I know I may this is rude, but I want to know what happened to your sister and the Kazecage's ex-wife who is also your sister. Gaara then said, she died giving birth to me, the monster. Yashimaru said, Gaara, stop it. You are not the Ichibi. Yashimaru gained his composure and spoke to Naruto, I'm sorry Naruto, but as you can see, this is a very touching subject for Gaara. Naruto nodded as he said, I understand. He then went to Gaara and said, but let's play Gaara. He then smiled as Gaara then had a smile as well and nodded, and the two children played. Yashimaru was smiling from this scene until he was summoned, and he told to Gaara, "Gaara, I have to go and have fun with Naruto." Gaara nodded as Yashimaru shunshined to the Cage's office. In the next moment he was in the Cage's office with the Suna leader and the Hokage in the office. He immediately bowed to the two Cages and said, "Cage-sama, you have summoned me." The Cage then stood up and said, "Yes, Yashimaru. I have a mission for you to do tonight. This will be an S-class mission." Yashimaru said, "Hi, what is it?" The Cage then said, "I want you to assassinate my daughter, Gaara." Yashimaru was shocked as Sarutobi stopped moving. The Cage however had an uncaring look on his face. Yashimaru then recovered from his shock and said, "Okay. Ha ha ha, nice joke there. Now seriously, what's the real S-class mission?" The Cage bluntly said, "What joke? I'm serious about you killing Gaara." Sarutobi, who also recovered, was going to say something, but Yashimaru spoke first. "Why? Gaara has been good all year and he hasn't killed anyone." The Cage then said, "The reason is that I want to test Gaara's control of the beast. Another thing is that this needs to happen before the council begins to send assassins every time to kill her." Yashimaru then thought about it and Sarutobi said, "Cage-sama, don't you think?" Yashimaru suddenly said, "Understood. When should I do it, Cage-sama?" Sarutobi said, "Yashimaru-san, don't you think?" The Cage said, "Tonight, it's your plan." Yashimaru then shunshined out of the office as the Cage sat down, and Sarutobi said as he sighed, "Is this your only plan?" The Cage had a frown on his face as he said, "I wish there was another." It was already nightfall and Gaara was at the roof and relaxing. She enjoyed playing with Naruto in the afternoon and retired for the night as she was tired and was amazed how Naruto had so much energy. Naruto then went around Suna to grab a bite. She was just looking at the stars again and then a kunai flew right past her head. She then said, "Sabaku Q." The sand then turned into a coffin, but before Gaara could crush his attacker she saw sandy blonde hair. She stopped her attack and released the sand. "Yashimaru, why? I could have killed you." Yashimaru shouted, "Why?" He started laughing, "Because I've wanted to kill you since the day you killed my sister." Gaara immediately stopped and started backing away. "No, I didn't mean to." Yashimaru interrupted, "Shut up." Gaara went to the ground and curled into a ball as she was starting to cry. Even though this hurt Yashimaru so much to lie to Gaara, he had to do it, it was a mission. Yashimaru then continued, "Do you know why my sister or your mother named you Gaara?" Gaara didn't lift his head as she continued to cry, and Yashimaru continued, "Your name comes from the phrase, 'Where O Isuru Shira.' The reason is because she hated this village to her very soul because of what they did to her and decided to make it into her son." Yashimaru then got several kunai with explosive tags. "Nobody will ever love you, Gaara, for who you are. Even someone like Naruto will never talk to you again. Once he learns about the Ichibi, he will never play with you." That made Gaara cry more, to learn that if Naruto learned more about her, the fun that the two had would be gone, and that made Gaara's tears get out uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Yashimaru was torn to complete the mission or tell Gaara the truth and console her. "No, control yourself. This is for Gaara's sake. This is my lesson to him about physical and emotional pain and also about love. I have to do this." Yashimaru with new conviction said, "Now do us all a favor and die, Gaara." The kunais then went straight for Gaara and the sand did not protect her. Gaara then thought, "Please let me die." It lasted for an eternity for death to happen, and Gaara realized that nothing hit him and he opened his eyes and stopped crying and said, "And Naruto?" The blonde had been hit in the chest by the kunai as he protected Gaara from the kunai. Yashimaru said, "Nah." He was interrupted when the same blonde who was bleeding and then hit Yashimaru at the jaw, sending Yashimaru to the wall. Naruto then went to Gaara and said, "Gaara, are you alright?" Gaara looked at Naruto and tried to get away while saying, "Go away. I am a monster." Naruto wouldn't let go and then said, "You are not a monster." Gaara was even using her sand to get away from Naruto, but it wouldn't work. Gaara then said, "Why? Why are you doing?" She was stopped when Naruto hugged her, and it felt like all of her worries and sadness just vanished as she was in the arms of Naruto. And cue the no music like what I did in chances. Naruto then said as he wiped the eyes of Gaara, You know I'm kind of tired of doing that, so my promise to you is that you are never going to cry when I'm alive. Gaara then said, Naruto, that is the most pointless promise that someone has given me. But she then wrapped her arms around Naruto and smiled as the blonde had a faint blush on his cheeks. Thank you so much for that. Naruto then said, you're welcome. Yashimaru then got out of the wall. Man, that kid has a nice kick. And then stood up only to find Naruto angrily staring at him. Naruto said, hey Teme, why did you do that to Gaara? Yashimaru grimaced, shit, this wasn't supposed to happen. What do I do now? I have no orders to attack Naruto and I have to still continue this for Gaara. Yashimaru then said, Naruto-kun, may you please move out of the way so that I can finish the job I should have done a long time ago. Naruto said, no, I am not leaving here because I am protecting my friend. Gaara was surprised, I am your friend. Naruto then said to Gaara, of course, I'm your friend, Gaara. Yashimaru then laughed, ha. You can't be friends with a monster. Naruto. Yashimaru stopped when he felt an unnatural number of killing intent just pour on him from Naruto, who said, you're no better than the villagers back in Konoha. The red aura around Naruto intensified as it alerted every shinobi in Suna to appear around the area. The Kazekage and the Hokage were also watching from on top of the next building, and a Jonin appeared right in front of them. Kazekage-sama, how do we approach this? The Kazekage then said, stand your ground and wait. I will give the order to attack. Now stand down. The Jonin responded, hi. As he vanished, all the shinobi immediately surrounded the perimeter and waited for their cage's order. Meanwhile, Naruto was seething and then he said, you're gonna pay for what you did to Gaara. Yashimaru was stuttering because of the killing aura that Naruto was making. Why? Naruto then said, because a monster protects a monster. Naruto's body was then filled with the steel skin. He looks like Greed in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood when he is in full form, throughout his entire body, and then started to attack at Yashimaru. Sarutobi then said, Naruto. Yashimaru was winded from dodging from so many attacks and that Naruto hadn't even broke a sweat and that the roof was messy and filled with holes. Yashimaru was shocked to see this form of Naruto at his ultimate shield form. This is really bad. If I do this wrong, then that means I'll probably be mincemeat. He then thought about his options. If I tell Gaara and Naruto about this, the Kazekage will kill me, but... He then looked at Naruto and that his face looked like a black demon. Never mind getting killed by the Kazekage. He'll probably torture me then kill me slowly. Yashimaru then dodged another attack led by the black-skinned Naruto, and Naruto then did a frenzy as he clawed Yashimaru that hit his arm, which caused 3 marks on his right arm. Yashimaru then muttered to himself, here goes something. Yashimaru then went forward. Naruto and Yashimaru dodged and bowed to Naruto, Sumimase. Naruto was confused and stopped attacking. Yashimaru then said, Gomenasai, Naruto. Gaara, I didn't mean what I said earlier to you, Gaara. It was all just a mission from the Kazekage to do this to test Gaara if he could control the beast. Naruto then said, ha, as he was confused as the entire shinobi sweat dropped at the blonde's voice. Sarutobi was embarrassed and the Kazekage was grumbling about how would he fix this. Naruto then let go of his ultimate shield form and said, can we please get a clear explanation for this? Yashimaru then said, hi. Gaara then went closer. So the things you told me, Yashimaru, about Mama were? Yashimaru then said, absolutely false. He then smiled at Gaara and said, even though my sister was the Jinchuriki of the Ichibi before you, she never hated this village and loved you even more. She would never dare to call your name after carnage. Gaara then started crying again. Mother loved me. Naruto then consoled him and then talked to Yashimaru. So why did Kazekage do this to Gaara? Yashimaru then knew that Kazekage must have meant the Kazekage and said, well, this was meant to be a test to prove Gaara's control and to control the council's attacks on her. Naruto then had an angry tick on his head and announced, you idiots. Once I get my hands on that council and that Kazekage, and I'll kick all of their asses. Gaara was shocked because no one said that, while Yashimaru, hearing Naruto's threat, said, Naruto, if you do that then you'll start a war. Naruto then said, I don't care. They messed with Gaara-chan and they are going to pay for what they did, I swear. Gaara again was shocked at what Naruto said. Naruto, why would you do that? Naruto said, because I would do anything for a friend and you're a friend to me, Gaara. Naruto then decided to walk to the edge and shouted, Gigi. Let's go home now. Sarutobi nodded but Kurama immediately said, Kit. Put up your. Naruto almost on instinct placed his shield on but then he felt something heavy on his chest and it was also hot. Naruto looked to the source and found a man who had red hair and was about 6 feet tall with red hair and that his sword pierced Naruto's chest. The man then said, Goodbye, demon. Naruto then coughed up blood and then closed his eyes. Gaara was quiet and unable to move while every shinobi present was shocked. Suddenly the man whispered something and a pillar of fire went through Naruto's chest creating a hole in the middle of his chest as the blonde just fell. Gaara seeing this suddenly shrieked, Naruto. She then ran to where Naruto was and started tugging and shouting, Naruto. Naruto. Wake up. Open your eyes. She then started to cry again as the man was still smiling, Don't leave me. Please. Yashimaru who recovered said, Why did you do this? The man with the red hair smirked. It was for the future of Konoha that the Kyuubi would die. Suddenly an immense killing aura filled the entire area as Sarutobi was angry. Who ordered you do this? The man then said, I'm sorry Hokage-sama. He then showed his tongue and then rolled back in, My lips are sealed. Sarutobi was now very angry and the suffocating killing intent clouded the entire area and choking the weaker shinobi or rendering them unconscious. The Cage was surprised at Hiruzen's anger. No wonder he was feared during the second and third Great Shinobi War. I wouldn't want to get on his bad side. Meanwhile Hiruzen was thinking, that seal on his tongue. I've only seen that in Danzo's root members. But I thought we disbanded them long ago. I think I should have a long talk with an old friend. Gaara then stood up from where she was. You killed Naruto? The red-haired man then looked at Gaara and said in an evil tone, Yeah I did. I killed that demon for Konoha. What you gonna do about it? Gaara then summoned her sand and gathered it at the side of her forehead and then carved the word love with Naruto's blood in the sand. She then looked at Naruto's killer and said, You're going to die. She then screamed, Tanuki Niri no Jutsu. She then slept as sand then started to go to Gaara. The Cage then said, Now, stop Gaara. Every shinobi in Suna then went to where Gaara was but the guy just smirked as he said, Fuinjutsu, Shiju no Seimin. Got this from Bleach. Suddenly there was a rectangular prison-like barrier which surrounded the roof which left only the red-haired man, Gaara and Naruto who still had a hole in his chest. The shinobi including Yashimaru were trying to get in but the prison did not move. The Cage then went near the prison as the Hokage as well followed, move every civilian out of the area. Get Tamari and Kankuru as well. The Suna shinobi followed their commander and then did what he asked. The Cage then asked Sarutobi, Hiruzen, could you please help me in destroying this barrier and also controlling the Ichibi? Hiruzen then nodded, as long as you help me get Naruto-kun to a hospital. The Cage was confused at this, why? The boy is already dead. He was stabbed at the chest and not only that but that same spot exploded and made a hole in his chest. You're saying that Naruto-san is still alive. The Hokage then said, he's a special case. The Cage then said, well, let's get this started. He started gathering the sand and mixed it with his gold dust as he said, Jishin. Seiken Taiso. The huge gold sand turned into a large wave which hit the barrier and there was no effect. Hiruzen then tried, Kaden. Karyu Enden, the flaming dragon head hit the barrier and with no effect as well. The red-haired guy just smiled, there is no escape from this barrier until I say so. He then saw the sand start to rise. Well, it looks like time for another dance. Suddenly a giant hand hit him as he blocked it but was pushed towards the end of the barrier. Emerging from the sand was the full form of Shukaku and with Gaara at the beast's head. Shukaku then said, hell yeah. Baby, I'm free. Wait, what is this? The red-haired man just smirked again. I get to kill the Kyuubi and fight Shukaku. Working with Danzo-sama has its perks. The same guy said arrogantly, hey. I was the one that made this barrier. Shukaku then looked at the man and said, so I can guess that if I kill you then I'll be free. The guy just said, HN. Shukaku then attacked the red-haired guy and he just dodged easily. Shukaku then inhaled and said, Futon. Renkuden, the man also dodged the bullets as he then said, you want more, I'll give you more. He then jumped up in the air, Gaki Rekko. A green circle of chakra then was above Shukaku and suddenly rained green blasts that affected the Biju. Shukaku then used his sand to shield himself from the blasts. The red-haired guy then as he shook his head, tisk, tisk, tisk. That is no good. Well, you have to burn. He then gathered fire in his hand and said, Kongobaku. The spherical ball of fire then hit the shield as the beast bellowed due to the heat. The red-haired guy then cut his left arm and said, I want this fight to continue. But alas, I had to end it. He then raised his right arm and said, Harayu Gekizoku Shinten Reiho. A gigantic beam then hit Shukaku which penetrated his shield causing it to scream in pain. He then used his 2 fingers to release a red beam which hit the Biju's eyes and causing it to go down. He then started laughing maniacally as he said, Now Shukaku, you have the greatest honor to face my greatest attack and that is why I sacrificed my left arm to do this. He then tossed his left arm to where Shukaku was and shouted, Here it comes, Itokaso. The ground then had a massive shockwave which made everyone tumble as the red pillar of fire erupted from the ground and swallowed Shukaku and the beast again was in pain. All the while the man was still laughing and almost to the point of just rolling around because he couldn't breathe anymore. He then wiped the tears from his eyes and then waited for his technique to be finished. The red pillar was gone and so was the beat, but Gaara was still safe and still asleep. He was so happy that he beat a Biju and started walking slowly. He then felt something heavy was on his chest. He then looked down and there was a black hand protruding from his chest, no way. He then coughed out blood as he looked behind him and saw a tired Naruto whose hole was healed and that his arms were with the ultimate shield. The red-haired guy said, Impossible, how did you survive? Naruto then breathed and said, Because I am awesome Datbayo. Naruto then released his arm from the guy's chest and the red-haired guy just said, I can still. He was interrupted when the sand suddenly captured him and then crushed him. The barrier then disappeared and Shukaku rose up and said, Good luck to that riddance. The Biju then looked at Naruto and said, I smell Kyuubi. Are you the Kyuubi, little one? Naruto replied, I'm the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. Shukaku then laughed as he said, Ha 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 ha. The mighty Kurama was placed into a midget. Ha 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 ha. Naruto was almost laughing if it wasn't for being called a midget. The Kyuubi then said, Oi, Ninjin, let me have a hand at that crazy Tanuki. I'm going to make him regret ever insulting me. Naruto answered, Nope, it's a bit funny but I have to ask. How do I save Gaara? The Kyuubi said, I'm not telling you, Ninjin. Naruto then got to his knees and begged, Please Almighty Kurama. Please tell me your infinite wisdom to save Gaara and kick Shukaku's ass. Kurama then said, Okay. You have to wake up your friend and that is the trick. Naruto then asked, How do I do that? Kurama then said, I don't know, just do it. Now leave my sight and kick Shukaku's ass. Naruto then appeared in the real world and the case cage and the Hokage were next to him. Sarutobi asked, Are you okay? Naruto-kun. Naruto then stood up and brushed himself, I'm okay, Gigi. He then saw the case cage who was preparing to attack Shukaku. Case cage-sama. Even Sarutobi was shocked at Naruto's sudden politeness. The blonde continued, May I be the one that brings back, Gaara-chan. The case cage looked at Naruto who was determined, Okay, Naruto-san. But don't kill my daughter. Naruto then smiled, No problem. The case cage interrupted, Rasu. Naruto then said, Huh? The case cage then said, That is my name, Rasu. Naruto then said, Okay, Rasu-san, I'll save Gaara-chan. With that Naruto lunged at Gaara as Sarutobi said, Why did you even say yes? Rasu then said, Because he's the only one who can save Gaara. Naruto then went to where Shukaku was and shouted, Gaara, wake up. The Biju then shook his head, Quiet down midget. You're not going to make me come back there. Naruto then said as he ran and jumped on top of the arm of Shukaku, I'm going to get Gaara-chan back. He then moved to where Gaara was and found her still unawake. What should I do? I gotta use my head. Wait a second. I'll use my head, I am such a genius. Kurama just shook his head, I can't believe how much of an idiot my jailer is. Naruto kept on running and then dodged Shukaku's attacks and then reached the head. He then approached the prone Gaara and held her head, Sorry. Naruto then pulled his head back so that he could headbutt Gaara. Shukaku on seeing this, "You are not placing me back in that cage, midget." The Biju then grabbed Naruto's ankles, which caused him to fall forward and his lips fall on Gaara and causes him to panic, and Gaara woke up to find Naruto on her lips. Shukaku then said, "Damn it. And I was free." The beast then started to melt and Gaara and Naruto got separated because the sand fell. Rasa then got his daughter and said, "Are you okay?" There was no response from Gaara as they approached the ground and Sarutobi was helping Naruto up. Gaara suddenly got off her father's arms and went near Naruto and asked, "Are you alright, Naruto?" Naruto saw Gaara and heavily blushed as he stuttered, I am alrig alright." Gaara said, "Is that so?" She then got closer to Naruto's face as the blonde boy was heavily red because he couldn't forget on what happened. Gaara then touched his bare chest, which had a hole on his shirt, making the blonde blush more. "I saw you die, how did you live?" Naruto then scratched the back of his head and said, "Well." Flashback. Naruto was in his mindscape and grumbled, "What happened?" The Biju then appeared in front of him, "Baka. You got yourself killed and now I have to fix you again." Naruto was confused, "What do you mean?" Kurama sighed, "You don't remember you got stabbed in the chest with a sword and got a hole in your chest." Naruto then finally got it and then remembered something important. "Gaara," he then shouted, "Hey Kurama. Can you heal faster so that I can save Gaara-chan?" Kurama then said, "Be quiet, Kit. You don't realize how hard this is since you are technically dead because your heart was blown and there is a hole in your chest." Kurama then looked at Naruto and sighed, "You really don't know, do you?" Naruto tilted his head because he was confused, "I don't get it. I thought you could heal me from anything after my ultimate shield." Kurama sighed again as he muttered, "Mendokus." He then coughed slightly to regain his composure. "Naruto, yes, I can heal you from almost anything, but do you realize that something like if your head gets blown off or your heart is literally gone is really hard to heal?" Naruto then said, "Oh, okay." He then smiled, "I promise I won't let this happen again to me." Kurama then sighed, Hi, you win. Now get out there and kick that guy's ass." Naruto then got out of his mindscape and saw that the guy was laughing and there was a red pillar near him. Naruto then saw the red pillar disappear and found Gaara on the ground and that she was unconscious. The guy then started walking slowly. "He's going to hurt Gaara. I can't let that happen." He instantly lunged in at the guy and secretly put his ultimate shield on and stabbed the guy in the chest. He then got his arm out of the man's chest and then saw the man get crushed by Gaara's sand and almost threw up a little. "This is horrible. I don't think I could ever get used to this." Flashback end. "So that's what happened and you saw that I saved Gaara. What do you think, Gigi?" Naruto smiled as he was waiting for Sarutobi's answer. But Sarutobi was shocked. He knew that Naruto had potential but not like this. Sarutobi then said, "You did a good job." Naruto started celebrating on how he did a good job. Sarutobi then interrupted, "But are you okay with what you just did?" This stopped Naruto from celebrating as he remembered what had happened. He then told the Hokage, "I know about what I just did and I feel like a monster for doing that." He then started to tear up and sit down. Sarutobi approached the blonde boy and patted his head and said, "That is the difficulty of a shinobi." Naruto stopped crying and looked at Sarutobi and asked, "What?" Sarutobi explained, "You see Naruto-kun, we shinobi are not gods but just ordinary men. We take lives even if those lives may have families or loved ones, we still take them. Thus causing the endless cycle of hatred that has caused many wars and suffering. We shinobi are the reason for all of this." Naruto then asked, "How do you deal with it?" Sarutobi answered, "By reminding yourself that you never enjoy this kind of savagery and that you are only doing this to protect your loved ones." Naruto then stood up and said, "Gigi." He then used his thumb to point to his heart. "I will never cause anyone suffering again and I will end the cycle of hatred." Sarutobi was shocked at Naruto's maturity and simply smiled and said, "You will one day accomplish that, Naruto." Kurama, who just heard everything, then said, "That kid. Is he the one that father told us will come and change the world?" Naruto just smiled as he did not hear what Kurama said, but then two voices simultaneously shouted, "Gaara!" Temari and Kankuro were there near Gaara as they said, "Are you okay? Were you hurt? We're sorry that we didn't help you." They were interrupted when Gaara raised her and for them signaling them to stop. I appreciate the concern but don't worry, I am okay. And she then smiled at her two siblings, thank you for caring. Tamari and Konkaru smiled as they were really happy because they thought that they lost their sister. Tamari hugged her younger sister and said, we should thank you. Before Gaara said something, Yashimaru appeared right in front of her. Gaara, Gaara then said, it's alright Yashimaru. You helped me realize that Ka-san did not hate me and for that I thank you as well. Rasa then approached his daughter. Gaara, you have done a good job. Gaara just ignored her father and just nodded her head and then went past him. Rasa sighed, I think I did a horrible decision. You think? Naruto, who was smiling at what he was seeing from Gaara, she's enjoying this. He frowned a bit, is this what a family feels like? Why did you leave me Okawa-san, Otou-san? Gaara then approached Naruto and then grabbed the blonde at his back and kissed him softly and let go. Naruto poofed up and became red as he said, Gagae Rawai? Gaara then said, I thought that it was necessary for me to thank someone for saving me like that. Naruto, who was still red, where did you get something like that from? Gaara then got an orange book from her sash, it was this book. Naruto immediately got it and read, Icha Icha, Desert Flower. What kind of book is this? More importantly, I'll kill the author who made this. He sounds like a creep. The white-haired man who was still on the tree sneezed again, that makes it 2 times. Jiraiya, you devil, it must be Tsunade. The pervert then continued to look at the naked women in the onsen. Naruto then said, where did you get this from, Gaara? He refused to look at Gaara directly because he might faint from remembering the kiss. Gaara then stated, I got it from Konkaru's room. Konkaru said, Gaara, but he was immediately knocked out by Tamari. How dare you get our little sister involved in things she shouldn't know about? Naruto sighed at the sight and asked Gaara, anyways, are you really okay, Gaara? Gaara then nodded, don't worry about me, Naruto. She then yawned and said, Naruto, she then closed her eyes and fell, but Naruto caught her and saw Gaara's sleeping face. He saw her porcelain-like skin and the mark on the side of her forehead that read love, she's really beautiful. He then carried her in his arms and left the roof. Tamari and Konkaru were about to chase Naruto but their father stopped them. Konkaru asked, To-san, why did you stop us? Rasa then said, Naruto-san would not hurt Gaara. Tamari was about to speak but her father spoke first, please, just trust in me. This made the 2 siblings stop as they also left the scene. Rasa was hoping, I hope Naruto-san can help Gaara and make her better. Sarutobi, who just saw the blonde carry the Cage's daughter, my god. That was like what Minato did when Kushina was captured. Your blood, Minato, has not stopped. It grows in your son's type of a woman. Naruto reached Gaara's bedroom and lay her down on the bed and she was still asleep. The moonlight that was shining on Gaara entranced Naruto, what's this? My heartbeat is going fast. He then was about to leave when a soft hand grabbed his arm. Stay with me. This caused Naruto to blush again as he looked back and saw that Gaara was on her side and that she was hugging Naruto's arm. Gaara then said, I'm alone. This surprised Naruto to hear her say it. Gaara continued, it's so cold but I see light. I see it in Naruto. Naruto got shocked of what Gaara said, Naruto is just so bright when he's with me and I need him. Naruto didn't know what to say but Gaara continued, please don't go. Naruto then immediately said, what are you talking about? I'll never leave a friend behind. Naruto then paused and held Gaara's hand that was still on his arm, especially if it's you, Gaara-chan. He then realized that she was fast asleep by the time he said anything. He also noticed that Gaara's hand was still on his arm so he looked at his choices, either get off and probably make Gaara mad and I don't know why or stay here. I think I'll go for the second one. He then lay next to Gaara and then with this Gaara used her 2 arms and surrounded Naruto's body and placed her head near his neck which caused Naruto to blush even more. He then decided to face Gaara and saw the redhead asleep. He then said, good night, Gaara-chan. He then closed his eyes and let the fatigue take him and he fell asleep instantly. He didn't realize that Gaara was awake this entire time. Kurama said, and I was expecting something more hot to happen but the kid is too much of an idiot to know how to use the situation to his advantage. Morning came and the sunlight alerted Naruto to an already awake Gaara. It took a few seconds for Naruto to think and he yelled and went back and arrived at the window. Gaara sat up from her sleeping position. Good morning. Naruto couldn't say anything as Gaara stood up and was going to leave the room. Thank you for everything, Naruto. She then closed the door as Naruto became even redder. Kurama sighed, like I said. Can the kid take a single hint of his predicament? Sarutobi then opened the door to Gaara's bedroom and found a red, sweating Naruto near the window. He then smiled and told Naruto, we are going to leave today. Prepare your stuff. A rapid nod from Naruto made Sarutobi leave while Naruto was in his thoughts. Why? A few minutes later Naruto arrived at the gate with the Konoha group and the case cage with his 3 siblings. Sarutobi then said, Naruto-kun, come. Naruto walked over to where Sarutobi was and he was face to face with Gaara. Naruto then waved hi to Gaara and then Sand pushed Naruto as she hugged him and then started to cry, please don't leave. Just stay for a few more days. I don't want to lose someone as important to me. Naruto was too shocked and the rest were surprised and couldn't react. Meanwhile, Kakashi was scribbling in his notebook which was then quickly disposed of by Sarutobi who whispered to him. I will burn every copy of Icha found in this planet and strip you of your rank and make you a genin again. Is that clear? Sarutobi showered him with killing intent which made Kakashi whimper and say, Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto then pulled Gaara closer. I have to go. This made Gaara hold Naruto closer. But don't worry, I will send you letters every time. I promised you, right? Gaara looked up at a smiling Naruto as he wiped her tears. I'll never leave you alone ever again. And since I broke my last promise. Naruto then shouted, I'll definitely keep this one, believe it. Gaara then said, thank you, Naruto. And I was awake the entire time you said those stuff about me. Naruto blushed again as he said, how? Gaara merely smiled. The atmosphere was ruined when there was a loud cough. Naruto looked at Rasa as he said, well, let's not delay this any further. I hope for a safe journey, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi replied, I hope as well for a fruitful future, Kazekage-sama. The Konoha group was going to leave as Naruto and Gaara waved to each other their last goodbyes. But there was a sudden and strong sandstorm that blew over the desert and caused the Konoha group to stop. Before anyone can say anything, Rasa spoke up, this looks like our strongest sandstorm in decades. I think we should wait till it clears up. Asuna Shinobi suddenly appeared right in front of the whole group and said, Kazekage-sama, it appears that not only this huge sandstorm but there seems to be a large camp of foreign ninjas near the gates. What shall we do? Rasa then said, gather the elders for a meeting. I will be there. The Suna Shinobi then replied, hi. As he shunshined out of there, Rasa then spoke to the Konoha group. Well, it seems that you can leave so. Gaara immediately grabbed Naruto as she ran while dragging the blonde into the city. Followed by Temari and Kankuro who then chased after the two. Neko then said, Hokage-sama, may we? Sarutobi then said, you all may do. The 4 Anbu then said, hi. They then disappeared and Sarutobi then said to Rasa, this is all for Gaara, isn't it? Rasa then laughed and asked, how did you realize? Sarutobi then answered, as soon as the huge sandstorm came in. I sensed a bit of your chakra and knew that you made this sandstorm. I guess that the foreign ninjas are a lie. Rasa then said, that is true, but what can be my motive? Sarutobi then answered, what more could it possibly be than to make Gaara happy? Rasa then laughed, so you're not going to tell anyone about what I have done? Aren't you worried about Konoha, if you're not back? Sarutobi then said, you can say I am doing this for Naruto. Rasa then asked, why? Sarutobi explained, you see that boy has a similar past like Gaara. Rasa was going to speak but Sarutobi got there first. I know he looks too happy but the boy has a mask that can even fool our torture specialist, Ibiki-san. Anyway, I have also been a lousy guardian to Naruto and got him beat up and tortured by mobs of crowds for 8 years. Sarutobi continued, I did everything I could but it still wasn't enough. So the least I can do for him is for him to have at least a happy moment in Suna. Rasa then said, well, let's get to my office. I'm offering sake. Sarutobi then nodded as the 2 cages walked towards the city. It feels like I was here forever. But you're really going to leave, aren't you? Yeah, it looks like the old guys won't leave Gigi alone. So we have to leave tomorrow. Then that means you're going to leave me, and I will be alone again. Hey, what are you talking about? You have Rasa-san, Temari-chan, Kankuro, Matsuri is also kind. I will keep on sending letters every week just to make you sure. I told you didn't I will never leave you alone, Gaara. I know you won't and you're right. I won't be alone. That's all thanks to you, Naruto. Thank you again. Gaara smiled as the blonde placed his trademark grin. You don't have to thank me, Gaara. Just keep on answering my letters, Datbeo. Gaara just nodded and the two just simply went back inside the house. 2 years later, a now 10-year-old Naruto was just sitting on top of the fort's head and just admiring the sunset. Man, it's been already 2 years and a lot of things have happened. Kurama then said, that is true, kid. How have things been with your kid? Naruto then said, wait. I thought you can see everything I see. Kurama answered, I don't like to see everything in your life and it bores me. What happened to the letters? You haven't been doing them every week like you used to do. Naruto then thought about it. Oh yeah. She told me that she was annoyed answering this all the time, so just do it a few times. So I followed what she said. Kurama just smiled, whipped. Naruto then shouted, what did you say? Kurama then said, nothing kid. Anyway, weren't you supposed to go to your GG about training? Naruto then said, oh yeah. He then started running to where Sarutobi was. Sarutobi was merely smoking and enjoying the new Icha Icha book that his student have made. It seems that this looks like another fantasy of him and Tsunade-chan. At least the scenes are still good. What are you reading, Gigi? The Hokage then jumped out of his seat and saw from his window the smiling blonde, Kami. First it's Jiraiya, then Minato, then Kakashi and now Naruto. Maybe I should have that window locked for the next Hokage. Not gonna happen. So what are you reading? Is it a good book? Sarutobi then gave the book to Naruto, whose eyes immediately bulged and his face was full of angry tics. I hate this book. Kurama then told the kid, I don't think it's bad. So just open the book and let me read it. Naruto then shouted, shut up Kurama. He then looked at Gigi and said, are you talking to Kurama, Naruto-kun? The blonde then scratched the back of his head and smiled, hee hee, sorry Gigi. The fox is a bit of a pervert. Kurama then said, annoying brat. Naruto retorted, perverted fox. Loud ass midget. Tsunade hardy. Baka. Why did you call me an idiot? Why did you call me fox? Because you are. Does that mean you are an idiot? Yes. Kurama was holding his laugh, damn it. Kurama then laughed his ass off and Naruto said, I hate you. He then went back to the real world and saw Gigi looking at him. Sorry, Gigi, I was talking to Kurama again. Sarutobi said, okay, Naruto. So why are you here in the first place? Naruto then said, well, I'm sort of here for my training. Sarutobi then said, oh, then are you really serious about training? The boy nodded, yeah, I mean Kurama won't shut up about being humiliated that his warden is weak, so he wants me to train more and we need a training ground so that people won't interrupt us. Sarutobi then said, let me think. He then looked at the training grounds available. Maybe training ground 36, my own creation. Sarutobi then described, it's a very large training ground and no one uses it. It's a very fast forest, but there are streams, rivers and a waterfall. There is a field in the center and that's all there is to the place. What do you think? The blonde then went inside the room and started jumping around. That is awesome. I'm going there right now. He was about to go out the window. Naruto-kun. The training ground is near the Namikaze mansion. The blonde then said, Namikaze mansion. Got it. He then left as the Hokage sat down. Well, he deserves that place anyways because it is. I always wonder, am I really doing a good job to your son, Minato? The secretary then came in and said, here is some more paperwork. She then placed more paperwork for the old Hokage to deal with. He then said, seriously, this will be the death of me. If only I can learn the secret that Minato always bragged about. If only I can clone. He then started banging his head and his secretary, who was worried, are you okay? He then stopped and then used the clone seal, I'm sorry, please anyone tell me how to describe the Kage Bunshin technique seal in words. To create 2 shadow clones. He then said to the 2 clones, I want you 2 to do the work. The 2 clones then started doing the paperwork and the secretary left because she didn't want to ask any questions. The old Hokage sat back and enjoyed the view of Konoha. Thank you, Minato. Naruto had just arrived at the training ground and saw the vast forest. It is a huge training ground and he then looked at the Namikaze mansion. It is near the Namikaze mansion, or is it in the mansion? Hey, whatever. The blonde just decided to enter the forest and look around. The whole training ground was just beautiful in that there was nature all around him. It almost looked like the mindscape that he gave to Kurama. He also found a stream and noticed there was some cut down trees and it sounded like someone was fighting. He then looked at a field where all of the surrounding trees were cut. He then hid as he saw what looked like a girl and a boy fighting each other. He then got closer and he noticed that the boy and the girl both had white hair. They both then stopped fighting and immediately looked at where Naruto was. The girl nodded as the boy sends a punch to where Naruto was. The blonde was amazed to see the cracks in the air as a shockwave hit Naruto, which caused him to be pushed back. It's so strong. He then noticed after the shockwave was gone, was that he was in the center of the training ground, which is the field. Who was that guy and what did he do? He literally punched the air and landed me here. He then noticed something sharp on his throat. That's a kunai. Shit. He then looked at who had the kunai and it was the white-haired girl, An. She looks like Rinka Urushiba from Tokyo especially. Great anime. Why are you here? Naruto, who was sweating bullets because he thought he was going to die. He was on the verge to tears until a loud male voice echoed throughout the field. Hanako, stop. The white-haired girl then let go of her kunai and out came from the forest was a white-haired guy who was really muscular, had scars on his chest and had a black bandana with a white mustache. An. He looks like Whitebeard from One Piece but younger, way younger. Don't you think you're being tough on this kid? The girl then replied, this boy isn't allowed to be here and if this boy does say that we are here, we will be forced to leave, Ni-san. Naruto was shocked. Wait, these guys are brother and sister. Naruto then stuttered, how old are you? The guy then said, well, I'm around 13 and Imouto who is going to kill you is around 12. Naruto was shocked. These guys are this powerful and they're not even adults. The guy then said, never mind that kid, what's your name? Naruto, what's yours? My name is Jiro, kid. Ni-san, why did you give him your name? The guy then answered, because I can see potential in this kid. What does that mean? He then smirked as he got a huge canister and then drank from it. You're so annoying in the morning. The girl then erupted, who are you calling annoying? I told you not to drink sake in the morning. Don't you understand that it is bad for your health, Jiro? Jiro just kept on drinking and not paying attention to Hanako. Naruto then raised his hand, Anyo, are you guys brother and sister? Hanako said, yes, Jiro cut in, unfortunately. Hanako then had a menacing aura as she said as she was about to throw something, Jiro. She then threw the object at Jiro's head which knocked the boy out. She then calmed down and asked, so, Naruto, you still haven't answered my question to what are you doing here in the first place? Naruto then talked to Kurama, should I give them the truth, partner? Kurama then answered, I don't know kid. But all I know is that they are really strong. You can't beat the two of them even with my help. Better tell them the truth and who the hell are you calling a partner? We are not partners. Yeah, whatever you say partner. A voice then cut off Naruto's thoughts, oi, Naruto. You spaced out. Naruto then scratched the back of his head, sorry. I was thinking of something. Anyways, I was here for training. Hanako didn't believe it, I don't believe you. A kid like you doesn't train to be a ninja. Jiro, who just woke up, murmured, hypocrite. She then threw the same pipe and hit Jiro again in the head. Where the hell do you get these pipes? Hanako then shouted, what the hell did you call me? The two of them were really close and were having a staring contest with sparks flying and all the while Naruto was just laughing and rolling on the ground as he held his sides. They stopped their contest as they looked at the blonde, quit laughing, brat. This shocked Naruto and made him stand up and salute, yes ma'am, sir. The two then sighed and muttered, he's an idiot. Hanako then cleared her throat, just follow us. The blonde nodded as he followed them into the forest again. The two then stopped and Naruto looked at the two-story house in front of him and to the left there was a playground. Jiro then went inside as Hanako stopped, aren't you coming in, Naruto? Naruto then went inside the house as Hanako entered and closed the door. The house was a simple one and looked really clean, Tadaima. Hanako shouted and another male voice said, you're noisy Hanako. She then replied, shut up, Ren. A black-haired guy then came out from the hallway with a blue jacket on and he had a medium build, An. Imagine Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist. Who's the kid? Naruto then looked at Hanako and pointed at the guy. Who is he? Hanako then said, him. He's a pervert. The man then said, what? As he snapped his fingers and flames came apart and then he threw roses from his jacket. The flowers caught on fire as the petals then spread. My name is Rin and these burning petals here signify my love for women and… His introduction was cut short when Hanako hit his face with her pipe sending Rin to the kitchen. She then proceeded to go there as Naruto just followed her. Hoi, Rin, what the hell are you doing? What would you have done if you would have destroyed my precious face? Naruto then asked, nay, Hanako-chan. Is he really that much of a pervert and who is he really? Hanako then proudly said, he's my eldest brother and he is that much of a pervert. Rin spoke, I told you I am not a pervert. I simply adore women and all types. Basically the thing of a woman is her three. He then got hit again by a pipe in the head. Shut up, Arrow ni, Naruto shouldn't know stuff about it. Rin then sighed, so not a woman. She then was going to hit him but he vanished. Naruto was shocked, fast. He then appeared behind Naruto. So what are you doing here? Naruto then said, oh, I was here training because Gigi told me to. Hanako then said, who's your Gigi? Naruto answered, Hokage Gigi. The two teens in the room just fainted as Jiro could be heard as he entered the kitchen. See, Hanako, I told you this kid has potential. Hanako was bowing at Naruto, Sumimase, Sumimase, Sumimase. Please don't tell the Hokage that I threatened to kill you. Naruto then said, Ma, it's okay. Naruto then asked, can I ask a question to you guys? Jiro said, shoot. Naruto continued, why are you guys even living here in the first place? I thought that Gigi told me that it's only nature here and you guys are all alone in this big house. Rin then answered, well it's kind of hard to explain. Back when I was 6 and Jiro was 5 and Janako was 4. We just got ran from the orphanage where we lived in because it was in flames. We walked from our orphanage in Iwagakure and went all the way here. After that we just slipped in this forest and found this house. We met Alex who became a father to us and taught us how to cook, sew, and fight. So basically this is Alex's house and that it's him and the three of us here. Naruto said, I got it. A door then opened as a masculine voice said, Tadaima. Hanako grew afraid, shit. Naruto, we'll talk later, hide. Hanako, Jiro, Rin, are you guys okay? Who's this? Naruto looked up to see a remarkably large man with a light complexion and a single lock of curly blonde hair on his head and had blue eyes. He looks exactly like Alex Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist. My name's Naruto and you must be Alex. I heard you from Hanako-chan, Jiro-senpai, and Arrow Rin. The two teens just laughed as Rin was arguing with Naruto that he is not a pervert. Alex then started crying and then his top got destroyed showing his exceptionally sculpted muscles and ridiculously defined musculature, Minato. He then got Naruto and gave him a ferocious hug. My muscles are crying with joy to find out that you're alive. Hey, Minato. Wait, you're not Minato. He looked as Naruto was unconscious as Hanako yelled, Alex, what are you doing? You just killed poor Naruto. Wait. Naruto as in. Naruto then came back, huh? What happened? This shocked Hanako and Rin. He survived Alex's muscle hug. He's only 10. Alex then bowed in front of Naruto and screamed out, Bakama. This caused Hanako and Rin to be brain dead as Jiro just laughed. Things will be a lot more fun with this kid around. Naruto then said, Heehhhhh. He then continued, Hoi, who is Minato and what are you talking about Bakama? Tell me. Alex then stood up, you weren't told by Sarutobi-san. Naruto then said, about what? Alex then left in a cloud of dust as he then came back still topless and had a sparkle in his eyes but his fists had steel gauntlets. Kids, it's time to meet Hokage-sama. They all said, what? He then turned to Naruto, you have to also be with us. Naruto just nodded as all of them left the house to go to Sarutobi's place. Sarutobi had this bad feeling. Something bad is going to happen. He then heard his secretary yelling, you can't go in there. Oh, hi Naruto-kun. What is this about and why is this somehow related to Naruto? His answer came when the doors exploded which caused a lot of smoke and soon the 5 Anbu appeared in front of their leader. Hokage-sama, we'll take care of the intruder. Make your escape now. Sarutobi then grimly said, I don't think I can escape my fate. The smoke then cleared out, revealing Naruto and 3 other teens as a very large man was in front. The man, An. Remember his entrance when he fought Sloth with the explosions and sparkles. Then shouted, Sa Aru Utu Bii. His entrance was big as he flexed his muscles and then arrived with a pose that had explosives and had sparkles all around him. Why haven't you told Bakama? Naruto just said, so cool. Ignoring that, Sarutobi just calmly said, who's Bakama? Alex then said as he pointed to Naruto, him. He's the son of Master Minato and Kushina-san. Why isn't he in the mansion like he was supposed to, and why doesn't he know who Minato-sama and Kushina-san is? Does he not even know his parents? Naruto couldn't even begin with parents, and Gigi knew about it. Malicious red chakra then filled Naruto as his voice changed. Gigi, Naruto then shouted, explain. Sarutobi sighed. It looks like I get Alex's bad mood and my deepest regret. He then spoke to Alex, show him to where the Namikaze mansion is. Only Naruto can open the gates as it needs his blood to unlock the seal. Afterwards have Naruto find whatever he needs because all the answers are there. He then went to Naruto, who was still in his Kyuubi aura. He then patted his head, I'm sorry Naruto-kun. You'll understand why I couldn't give you the name of your parents and their wills for you. Alex then got Naruto, come on Bakama, we will get to where your parents live. Naruto let go of his Kyuubi chakra as he told Alex, just put me down Alex and lead me there. Alex then let go of Naruto and walked forward. Nay, Naruto. He then looked at Hanako as Rin and Jiro were behind her. Are you the Kyuubi? Naruto was shocked as well as Alex as he stopped walking. Naruto just nodded as he began to tear up, you're probably going to hate me. Just like the rest of this village. Hanako said, what? He then looked up as he suddenly was surprised, you don't hate me. Hanako then said, why would we hate you? You're frickin' awesome. Rin then said, it would be so cool and you look like a good kid. Jiro then said, I knew you had potential kid. Naruto was happy and then hugged Hanako as he felt accepted. He then stopped and told them, thanks, guys. Alex then said, Bakken, shall we continue? Naruto nodded as he followed Alex. They then appeared in front of the mansion which was being held by the gate which had a complex seal in front. Alex then said, I think this is time Bakken for you to place your blood on the seal. Naruto then looked at the seal and then pricked his finger and placed his blood on the seal and then the gates opened. The mansion was just huge and beautiful, an. Looks like Naruto's mansion from the story of Council's Folly by Agamemnon. Please don't take this story from me, and your description of the Namikaze mansion is a masterpiece. And that the training ground that Gigi gave him was connected to the mansion. Alex then said, let us go inside, Bakama. Alex then opened the doors and it was a very huge space with a second floor and access to the garden out the back with many rooms, and what was more surprisingly was there was no dust or even dirt. Naruto asked, how? Alex then said, you see Bakama, Kushina-san or your mother is a very neat freak, so this is a low cleaning jutsu that allows the house to never get touched by any dirt. Naruto then looked up and saw the picture of the Yondaime Hokage and a red-haired woman who was very beautiful smiling as he was touching the woman's belly who was pregnant. The tears just started flowing and Naruto just went down and cried. Hanako then asked, nay, Alex, is that woman in the picture Naruto's mom? Alex nodded, she is the one who fell in love with Minato-sama and is the mother of Naruto-san. Naruto still was crying and then he was interrupted, get up, you coward. Naruto stopped as Jiro's yelling echoed throughout the room. Jiro-kun, shut up, Alex. Jiro then grabbed Naruto by his clothes and pulled him so that they were face to face despite Alex's and Hanako's protests. Hey, Gaki, are you a coward? Naruto was shocked and couldn't answer. Jiro Baka, why are you doing this to Naruto now? Shut up Hanako. Just understand what I am doing. I don't understand you boy. Naruto had stopped crying. To think a kid with your potential to be like this after seeing your dead parents smile is just a sad joke. Oh, boo-woo, mommy and daddy's dead. Big deal. He then continued, look at Alex. When your daddy died, Alex was forced to leave and live by himself for a long time in the forest. How about us? We had a hard life like you. We never knew our parents and we lived in an orphanage until we were 5 until it burned down and had to survive on our own. He then dropped Naruto down as Hanako caught him. I don't think you should cry and actually be happy that you met your family." He then left as Hanako then got angry. Jiro Baka. What the hell is he doing? He shouldn't have done that to Naruto. Naruto had just left Hanako's arms. He didn't even say a word as he proceeded to go up the stairs and the blonde was gone to explore the house. Rin then said, "Baka." Hanako then gained an angry tick as she started to chase Rin outside. "I'm gonna kill you." Alex then sighed, "At least this isn't a boring family." Naruto was on the second floor and he then stopped walking as the room to his left was a nursery that was untouched and then he just kept on walking without shedding a tear. He then saw the master bedroom and there was a closet that was very huge. Naruto went inside the room and opened the closet which contents fell and Naruto saw that they were all scrolls. He then looked back to the closet and inside were 2 envelopes. He grabbed both and they had the words, "To Naruto," on the envelopes. He decided to open one and revealed a long piece of paper. "Dear Naruto, if you're wondering why I am writing this letter, it is that the Kyuubi is right on the village's doorstep and that my duty is to protect it. This is also I sense a last will as I don't know if either me or your mother will lie from the ceiling but know that everything that me and Kushina own is all yours, son. I am sorry if you may encounter the hatred from the villagers after the sealing. I never meant for you to be the one to be sealed and your mother gave me an earful of that but the reason is because I believe in you. If you hate me at this point then I won't be so surprised. I am also sorry if the life that you will live is a painful one. I did not mean for this to happen and I have no excuse for what I have done so I just hope that you are still safe. Last thing, whatever path you are in, whether good or bad. Just know that your mother and I love you very much and wish to see you. Goodbye, son. Minato Namikaze. P.S. There are many ninja scrolls in the library for you to use and I hope they help." Naruto dropped the letter and was crying again as he said out loud, "I hate you." And then started punching the floor, but he then cracked a smile, "At least I know mom and dad loved me." Had to read the other one then. He then opened the other envelope and also a long letter came out. "Naruto-kun, I am very sorry that you are going to have to deal with what is going to happen next. Your father who is a big idiot decided to use you to be the next Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. I know that the road is very dangerous and there is a chance that we may not make it. But I just wish that I was there for the rest of your life. I wish I could have seen you walk for the first time, talk your very first word, go to the academy, probably become a ninja that your father wants you to be. Have your first birthday, see you get a girl and try to prepare yourself for a date. I want to stay with you longer and it's really painful to know that I'm only going to see you for a short time. I want you to eat a lot, sleep a lot and also try to study in the academy. I know if you got my habits then it's going to be hard for you. I also want you to have many friends, girlfriends, wives and grandbabies with grandbabies. I'm sorry if you got my verbal tick and that you won't have a mother to be with you. Just always know that I and your father will be with you always. I love you very much Sochi. Kushina Uzumaki. P.S. Find your godfather Jiraiya and your godmother Tsunade as well as your guardian Kakashi. They will take care of you." Naruto then stopped reading as he started smiling, "Thanks Ka-chan, To-san." He then left the bedroom and returned to the ground floor and found Alex, Hanako, a bruised Jiro and Rin waiting for him. Alex then said, "Bakama, did you find what you were looking for?" Naruto nodded, "I found Ka-chan's and To-san's letters." Alex then said, "Well in Minato-sama and Kushina-san's wills. You are the owner of this house. Phew, this is a big house, kid. You think you can live by yourself?" Rin said. Naruto nodded, "I'll admit this place can get lonely so," he then looked at the 4 people and smiled. Hanako instantly shook her head. "No," Naruto interrupted and exclaimed, "You all will live with me." The 4 were shocked and Hanako spoke first. "We can't possibly, I love you kid so much. I'll do anything you want," Rin said as he was hugging the boy and giving him so much affection. Hanako then said, "Rin. Alex, we can't." She stopped as the huge blonde man was crying and said with sparkles, "Bakama has the same compassion and mercy as Minato." He then removed his shirt again and then explosions happened when he said, "How can we not accept his offer?" He then ran off and said, "I'm going to get all of our stuff and place it here." Hanako's sweat dropped as her argument was lost. Jiro then went to Naruto who was still being hugged by Rin. "Kuzo, will I be able to keep my sake here?" Naruto then thought about it and said, "Sure, but first can you?" Hanako then hit Rin in the head with her lead pipe. "Get off, Naruto." Naruto then sighed as the two siblings fought again. He then went to Jiro and said, "Thanks for that." Jiro smirked, "No problem." He then went outside the mansion as he looked towards the sky. "I'm now liking a new life here. Ka-chan, Tu-san." 2 years went by so fast. Naruto was at the roof of his mansion as he was looking at the sunset. And the eternity of me being stuck here is still so slow. Naruto then smiled, "But what can you do about it, Kurama? We're stuck like this anyway." "Hey, I just realized something." Kurama then said, "What is it, Kit? You haven't taught me anything besides from my ultimate shield back then in Suna, and that was 4 years ago." The blonde pouted as Kurama then answered, "Haven't taught you? Kit, haven't you received training from those three? But Hanako ne, Jiro ni, and Rin ni just taught me some stuff." Kurama then said, "You call learning the basics, getting very good chakra control despite having me, and being able to use the Mokuton and the ultimate shield is just some stuff." The blonde then nodded as the Biju just face-palmed at how much of an idiot his tenant was. "Bah?" The blonde then insisted, "Please, Kurama." He then made the fearful puppy-eyed jutsu at the Biju. In annoyance, Kurama sighed, "Fine." The blonde then celebrated, but it was short-lived as the Biju shouted, "Be quiet." The Biju then said, "Shouldn't you be going to school now to learn of the teams?" The blonde then remembered, "Oh yeah. Thanks, Kurama. What would I do without you, partner?" Kurama mumbled, "You'd still be an idiot." Naruto answered, "What?" Message for Naruto. A new voice appeared as a pelican with a note on its mouth. Naruto then got the note out and read it. He then suddenly had an evil smile as he said to the bird, "Good birdie. Now run along and tell them I'm ready." The pelican then nodded as it flew away as Kurama asked, "Kit, is it them?" Naruto just nodded as he kept his evil smile, HMPH. This is going to be fun. Naruto then shunshined out of the roof and went to the school. He then appeared in the classroom and it was almost the time to start. Phew, dodged a bullet there. Hehe. I managed to fool Ruka ni-san. Naruto. The blonde then jumped out of his seat as he heard the voice and said, "Yes, Iruka-sensei." The big-headed teacher then said, "You were almost late. Never mind, just sit down and listen." The blonde then nodded and sat down. Iruka just sighed, "So welcome all. If you're here then that means you passed the genin exams." A loud voice suddenly cut in, "Iruka-sensei. Why is Naruto Baka here?" Naruto then said, "Hey, what does that mean, Sakura?" Kiba just said, "Exactly what it means, Dobi. You must have cheated to have passed the exam." Naruto was really hurt by this and was on the verge of tears because people still thought that he was a Dobi. Iruka suddenly said, "Naruto passed when he not only captured a traitor but also saved the life of a fellow shinobi. And I just didn't want to place the fight between Naruto and Mizuki because everyone does it." Sakura then said, "Iruka-sensei, that must have been a dream as Naruto couldn't possibly beat anyone." "Right, Sasuke-kun." The emo teen just merely HMPHED in response. Naruto then said, "Hey, take that back, Sakura. I just beat Mizuki Teme and also help Iruka-sensei." Sakura was going to say something but Iruka said it first, "Sakura." Naruto. Keep quiet. They both then stopped talking but Sasuke was thinking of something. Naruto beat a Chunin. HMPH. Impossible, but still I will prove to everyone that I am the best and then kill Itachi. Iruka then continued, "Well, since you Gakis have graduated I will assign you guys into teams. So, do we really need to go from Team 1 to Team 6? Team 7 will be Kiba Inuzuka." The boy then cheered as his puppy also yelped in response. Sakura Haruno. The two then groaned as the boy said, "Why'd I have to be with the freaking Banshee?" The class then started to laugh while the pink-haired Banshee started to rant, "Why do I have to be with the mutt?" Kiba then got out of his seat and was going to attack but Iruka shouted with his big head, "Quiet." The two then sat back in their seats and Iruka just sighed and continued, "And lastly Sasuke Uchiha. Your sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. And let me explain why I chose this group. These are all my least favorite characters in the whole Naruto and as well as my favorite fanfictions having this team. So yeah, I'm gonna do it." Sakura just celebrated and jumped as she also gloated her win to the fangirls. Kiba and Sasuke just remained silent as Kiba was just sullen. Why'd I have to be the one with the useless fangirl and the arrogant emo? Iruka then continued, Team 8 will be Hinata Hyuga, Shino Abarame, and Sai. Your sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. There was no emotion that was seen from the two and all for Hinata. Naruto. Hinata looked crushed as her crush was not in the same team as she was. Naruto was wondering, Hinata looks devastated and that must be the kid who Gigi saved from that bandaged guy's organization. He doesn't seem that threatening but he was trained by that bandaged guy and I have to be prepared on what his plans are. Team 9 will be Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi and Ino Yamanaka. Your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Choji just celebrated and Shikamaru just sighed, great I'm with Ino again. Ino just sighed as well, well at least I'm not in a bad team. Sakura then said, Sensei. Iruka then looked at Sakura, Naruto is in a special team. Kiba then hollered, the Dobi needs special help. Kurama stopped and said, Kid, you don't think. Naruto then said as he smiled, they're back. A huge dust cloud filled the classroom as Iruka was in front of the students, run. I'll stall them for as long as I can. The civilians ran away leaving the ones who had actual shinobi powers. Sasuke was grinning. I can finally test my powers. Meanwhile Naruto was just waiting for them to come up. The dust settled as Iruka just had his jaw drop off. Standing in front of him were 3 people but he could sense that he wouldn't stand a chance against one of them. These guys are dangerous. The remaining students felt dread except Naruto who was all giddy. Then there stood a man in front who was about 8 feet tall, had a white cape with numerous scars on his body and he had a crescent white-haired mustache and a Quan Dao in his hand. Picture an older version of Whitebeard from the last chapter about looking like he's in the mid-20s. The guy to the left of him was very handsome with a rose in his hand. Picture Roy Mustang in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Lastly the girl to the right of him was beautiful as well and her hair was black with white tips. Picture Hanako in Tokyo ESP. Everything was silent until a giant fireball headed at their direction and an Uchiha who was smiling. If I can beat all 3 of them then I can beat Itachi. The 8-foot-tall man then started walking to the approaching fireball leaving the class along with Iruka-sensei shocked except Naruto who was still happy and Sasuke who was celebrating in his mind, yes. I have finally won against the Dobi and Itachi. The behemoth of a man removed his cape and then ran into the fireball which caused Sasuke to celebrate but was cut short when he was in front of the Uchiha. Sasuke was shocked to see that this guy had no damage or didn't even smell like smoke or fire. Jiro, the tall man then looked at his companion, don't kill the boy. Just give it a little tap. He then sighed, hi, Hanako. Don't worry about it. Jiro then released a tiny bit of his killing intent that caused the Uchiha to whimper and wet his pants. He then gave a tap of the fist to Sasuke which caused the Uchiha to crash into several walls of the academy and become unconscious. After that the whole room became silent, even Sakura and Ino were crying quietly. They would have let their tears out but because of these 3 intruders it was impossible as they were both overcome by fear. Suddenly a loud burst of laughter as the whole class looked at Naruto who was crying and laughing. Sakura was going to yell at him but an unknown male voice then said, What are you laughing at, Naruto? As suddenly Naruto was engulfed in flames and the whole class again was shocked and then looked at the source. It was the other man who had his arm extended and his fingers in a snapping position. Hanako then sighed, Baka, she then hit the guy in the head with a lead pipe. The guy then had a bump in his face and then said with tears in his eyes, What did you do that for, Hanako? She then said, Yurusei, why did you do that to Naruto? The man then replied, Anyways why would you even hurt your big brother like this? Hanako then said, I would be ashamed of myself to call you a big brother. Suddenly, Oi, Rin-ni-chan, why'd you do that? Everyone then looked at Naruto who only had minor wounds and a few burns. Do you know how fast your flames are? Almost became grilled meat. The class was shocked as Naruto was a little bit injured by a shinobi who is as strong as the one that launched Sasuke into several rooms with a little punch. Iruka then suddenly remembered, wait a minute. Those names are very familiar to me. He then came out from his train of thought and said, Wait, you're the sensei for Naruto. Every genin except Naruto said, Nani? Naruto sheepishly scratched the back of his head as Iruka continued while looking at his list. Let's see here. Here it is. Team 17 will be only Naruto Uzumaki and your sensei will be Rin Armstrong, Jiro Armstrong and Hanako Armstrong. The reason why their names are Armstrong at the end because they decided on Alex being their guardian. Everyone was mumbling on how Naruto was able to have not one, not two, but three powerful senseis. Suddenly, Captain. The class then looked and saw what appeared to be many men on the whale ship. Jiro then said, Minna. How are you all? The crew then answered at the same time, we're fine, Captain. Naruto was amazed. Nay, Jiro ni-chan, how many friends do you have in that big ship? Jiro then said, well Kuzo, firstly they're like family to me. Naruto then excitedly said, so they're new family. Naruto then said to the crew, Ohayo. One of the crew members asked, Taiko, who is this? Jiro replied, this is my little brother, Naruto. All of the crew members then said, oh, Ohayo, Bakama. Naruto then scratched the back of his head, guys, stop. I already have Alex calling me that and I don't need someone else. Hanako then asked, so how is Alex? Naruto then said, he's doing fine and he said that when you guys come back he'll do a special dance for you guys. The three siblings then sweat dropped as Naruto continued, how many are you guys? Jiro then answered, well this my main ship so there's about 10,000 in that ship. Naruto then said, Sugoi. Jiro ni-chan. Jiro continued, but Naruto I have 10 other main ships that contain the same number with another 100 smaller ships with about 1,000 crewmates there. So I have about 1,000,000 in my crew. Naruto just jumped up and down, that is so amazing Jiro ni-chan. How did you get that many family members? Rin answered, well you see Naruto when we were away for 2 years we happened to find another huge land far away from here and then Jiro just beat everyone there and the ones he chose were the strongest from that place or anyone who wanted to join us. Naruto then said, that's amazing you guys. The three siblings started laughing but it stopped when the other senseis and the Hokage arrived at the scene. Everyone bowed except the siblings, crew and Naruto. The genin class with Iruka said, Hokage-sama. While Naruto with the three siblings said, Gigi. Sarutobi smiled. Well Naruto you have the name as the most surprising shinobi, so I am not surprised that you brought back these three and a whole lot of people with you. Hanako then said, we're back, Gigi. Sarutobi then replied, it's really good to see you Hanako, Rin and Jiro. Alex is worried sick about you three. The three then thought the same thing, we know. Jiro then approached Sarutobi and said, Gigi the Whitebeard army will protect Konoha from anything that will harm it. He then extended his hand out and Sarutobi shaked it. I honor this agreement Jiro for the betterment of Konoha. Sakura then asked, Hokage-sama, who are these people? Sarutobi smiled and answered, these are Jiro, Rin and Hanako Armstrong. They are S-ranked shinobi. They hail from Iwagakure but left to go here to Konoha. They are being taken care of one of the powerful shinobi we have who is Alex Armstrong. Also they are Naruto's adoptive siblings. The ship then arrived at the training grounds of Naruto's house, It is at the back of the house. Jiro then grabbed Naruto and threw him onto the ship. Hey, what was that for, Jiro? Jiro merely ignored the blonde and the siblings left with the ship and went to Naruto's house. The whole crew arrived at Naruto's house as the three siblings then jumped off the ship with Naruto and then Jiro yelled, Oi, you guys get off the ship. We're staying here in the meantime. The whole crew simultaneously nodded and instantly was there at the training grounds. Suddenly the worst fear of the siblings arrived with a loud voice. Rin-chan, Hanako-chan, Jiro-chan, a muscular man appeared right in front of the siblings and hugged them tightly. How is he able to hug all of them including Jiro? Naruto shrugged his shoulders, I don't know Kyuubi. I've learned not to question Alex about his strength. Alex then let go of the three as they then collapsed due to not being able to breathe. Why didn't you tell me that you were coming? They all stood up and began to stretch and Hanako spoke, we wanted to surprise you. Alex then removed his shirt and did his regular pose, that is so thoughtful of you. I knew you were on the rightful path when I raised you. I am so. Hanako then raised her hand, hi, we get it Alex. We also miss you. Alex then looked at the ship and the crewmates of Jiro and asked him, Jiro, I see that in your travels you have gained a lot of comrades and a beautiful ship. He then asked Jiro's comrades, May I ask on who are the strongest? Jiro then said, they are the ones that caused most of my scars. Hey, my 5 squad captains, where are you? 10 figures then appeared right next to Jiro, as one of them said, we are here, Taiko. Jiro then replied, my old man wants to know all of you and I have a feeling that something interesting might happen. They all then said, hi. Alex whispered something to Naruto, Naruto-kun, pay close attention. Naruto was confused by this but decided to follow what Alex said. A guy with long blonde hair, green eyes and wearing a jacket with long pants stepped forward. The name's Uruzu and I'm the captain of the 5th squad of Whitebeard's crew. I'm really good with swords. Naruto then thought, that wasn't much but I still get the feeling he's dangerous since he was able to injure Jiro Ni-chan. Jiro then said, next. A man then came forward. He was wearing a red kimono with a really huge leaf umbrella, just like Totoro, and he had short gray hair. But what was surprising to Naruto was that he had the same blue eyes as he had. He then spoke in a gruff voice, I am Aoi Namikaze, captain of the 4th squad. Naruto then yelled, what? He couldn't believe it. You hear a? Aoi spoke, yes Naruto, I'm a Namikaze just like your father. Naruto asked, but I thought all Namikazes disappeared. He then answered, well that is almost true. You see Naruto, when your father came here to Konoha, I was just a warrior in one of the houses. I decided to get out of the clan and discover my own path. When I reached the land that Jiro was talking about I first met Uruzu and then we journeyed together throughout the land. We then met Jiro and we fought him and after that we both decided to be a part of his crew. Naruto then asked, so are you related to me? Aoi shook his head, I'm afraid not. I never knew my parents so I was brought in by the Namikazes and they were like family. Naruto wanted to know more, what happened then to the Namikaze clan? Aoi said, well when your father died, things started to go messy in the clan and they all separated and I never heard from them since. Aoi then said, is there anything more you want to ask? Naruto thought about it and then excitingly said, do you know about the Hirishin? Aoi then nodded. Naruto jumped in joy until, but this made Naruto stop as Aoi continued. You cannot do this technique yet as it will strain your body. Perhaps when you get older, I will reconsider. Naruto celebrated and then Jiro interrupted. Okay enough chit-chat, next. Yeho. A girl appears right in front of me with brown hair and wearing a Miko costume with a katana sheath on her side and another sword on her back. Ohayu Naruto, my name is Rose and I'll be easy on you. So my abilities are using these swords. Naruto thought, well that was easy enough. What do you think Kurama? Was she telling the truth? Kurama answered, of course Kit. But I'd still be on guard if I were you, she looks tough. Duly noted partner. Jiro then said, well that was short. Clearing his throat he then said, next. A guy then came in and he had an orange hat which had 2 little faces which were happy and sad. He was wearing nothing on the top except for orange beads that were hanging on his neck. He had a tattoo on his right arm that was ASCE with the S crossed out. He had black shorts and an orange belt with black shoes. And, if you don't know who this is, wow, I don't know any more in life. He then talked to me, hey Naruto, my name's Ace and I use fire like Rin. Naruto just nodded and then Jiro said, okay Naruto, the next one is probably the strongest one that I have fought with and she beat me, Rin and Hanako. Naruto was shocked at what Jiro said, she's that powerful. I want to meet her Kit, Naruto then said, okay. I want to see her. Suddenly the blonde saw a tall, slender, and very beautiful girl with long white hair and crimson markings along her body. She's wearing a white long dress with no sleeves and was barefoot. And imagine the human version of Amaterasu from Okami. She also had a wolf fur as her dress and her eyes were yellow. She then spoke to the blonde, hi my name is Shiranui and my abilities are like a wolf. I wonder what she means by wolf. Jiro then said, if that is all, Naruto, I would like to assign you with your first mission. Naruto excitingly said, I'll take it. What is it? Jiro then said, I want you to fight all of my captains one-on-one. Starting with Uruzu and ending with Shiranui. Good luck Kuzo. Naruto then gulped as Uruzu stepped forward and smiled, shall we start?
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.